Greetings, fellow armchair imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here,
And Rohit.
and we're back to talk My Adventures with Superman Season 2. That's right, we got a brand new season, finally. Well, it's finally done airing, and we're finally ready and available to talk about it. Yes, so of course, we were very collectively blown away by the first season, so we were itching to talk about season two and kind of break down the full season and kind of go episode by episode and just kind of share our thoughts on the highlights of said season. So yeah, so I loved everything about. I continue to love everything about this show overall. Season one wowed me. I think it's a fresh way to adapt Superman for a modern audience. James Gunn should be taking notes. I'm gonna say that. I'm sure he's gonna do great. I'm just saying, like James Gunn, like this is how you kind of bring Superman into the modern era. That's how you do it. Look what the show's doing, James. So I was hyped for season two, and yet again I feel it impressed. It impressed yet again. It didn't really. I didn't call the direction of season two at all, and I really enjoyed that. It was season one was very introductory in that it's the first. It's like fall in love for the first time. Of course, much like the Donner Superman, it's a love story, and that's very much what season one is. In addition to that, we're being introduced to kind of a villain of the week, but with a through line. And now that we've kind of built the world, we're not necessarily just like doubling down again. We're going to do more of that again, and Superman's Rogues Gallery, and because that's the thing, Superman's Rogues Gallery, it is not as extensive as Batman, so there's not much of a shelf life for that sort of thing. So I like that we kind of went the more building narrative and arc for Superman, dealing with how humanity sees him, which is a really good thematic thing this season did. We introduced a few new characters, but just a few, but a few that we definitely got some mileage out of. And it's so it, I just so this the so it felt like the season was we kept the season very targeted on the story, got the backstory of Krypton, and I love this show. Let's keep it coming. Rohit, how did you feel about season two?
Overall, I love the season. I think it had a great start, a great journey, and a great end. And I'm really excited to see where the show goes. I think overall it keeps its central tenet of the main trio with Superman, Jimmy, and Lois being well defined, like really likable, but having the capacity to display flaws that make them relatable. And I think with the new introductions that we're likely to discuss about more um, through the discussion, the show very much commits to a cool sci-fi aesthetic and tone. And I actually there was an AMA on Reddit with with a showrunner, Josie Campbell, and she talked about how because I asked her what her influences were or what she kind of likes to cop or take homage, and she's very much into the sci-fi element. And I think this season really embraced the Krypton of it all for Superman, and with Kara, with sort of getting more into Jor-El and kind of the whole idea of what Krypton is and how it's kind of defined in this show. I think it was fresh. It was while still having echoes of what we know of Kryptonian culture and the history of it. So with that, I am really excited to see what the show looks like with this is a spoiler cast can spoil Kara being part of the dynamic, and if anyone has seen sort of the leaked art, I'm very excited to see the show mine more of the Superman mythos.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we're gonna go through the 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that brings us to episode numero uno. More things in heaven and earth. So, yet another holiday episode for my adventures with Superman. We ended last season on Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
which you better believe, folks. If we had a recap show for Thanksgiving specials, that finale would be amongst them, but we don't because it's not mainline. enough for us. Yeah, we had Valentine's Day, so we had so it's Valentine's Day this in our premiere here. Again, we've kind of it makes sense of the passage of time, and also the tie-in comic. Rohit, have you been reading any of the tie-in comic yet?
I have not. No. Are they any good?
I mean, so far, yeah. Basically, I think it's like yeah, it's about 2 issues in so far. Of like I said, I think it's they're starting with like a 6 issue miniseries that basically bridges the gap between seasons 1 and 2. So we open on Christmas. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Like they're bridging kind of like our months in between there.
Oh,
So
I
it's
see.
yeah,
It's like a My Average Superman 1.5 or something. Bridging the
yeah,
gap.
pretty much yes. And I think if I think the idea is if it goes well, then they might continue that for as it goes about. All right, so Sam Lane, he's MIA after kind of having kind of his big kind of moment with his daughter, where she like stood up for the alien. He kind of saw a little bit of the error in his ways. At least had a hesitation about it. Clark, meanwhile, we open the season really big with this really cool nightmare that Superman has, which does pay off by episode 8 of the season. Clark fears that deep down Lois, Jimmy, and just kind of humanity as a whole, they won't accept him. They're going to still see him as like different, as the alien, and it frightens them. And this is a great thing that. I mean, Zack Snyder really tried to hit home, but he kept making Superman too distant to really dig into this sort of theme, which this Superman does not have that problem at all. Just the idea that how do you beat Superman without kryptonite, which is what Man of Steel is all about. Like what are some inventive ways we can give Superman problems without without just doing the old green rock. And we do the green rock, but we find some other inventive ways of just kind of like how can we bring the Man of Steel to his knees, at least emotionally.
Yeah, and speaking of emotional, I think you hit on a good point about for Zack Snyder's Superman. It's like exploring the idea of isolation and alienation. It kind of I think maybe it was not overwrought, but just didn't have a sense of like, why do I care about this person being alien or isolated? Because I think Zack Snyder, to his detriment, put Superman and Clark Kent at a distance and made him sort of this like benevolent god that was stoic. Whereas for Superman in this, he's just a guy that
Mm-hmm.
dorky that is like late to work, that has like fishy hobbies and all that stuff. And as a result, when he has those kind of feelings of self doubt and isolation, and like your mind kind of just forgets that he's an alien that could take over the planet. Like you think, oh, this is just like you take the Superman elements out, like this would be like a very much like slice of life, like people in their 20s just trying to like make sense of their life. Um, and I think that's just not an angle that people necessarily like gravitate or think of when thinking of Superman, like the Man of Steel. But this angle makes Superman, not that he's not relatable, I think he makes him more youthful in a way that other Supermen are kind of coded to be more mature, stoic, and authoritative. This Superman is just more like a young guy who means well and tries to do well, but has a lot to learn and a lot to grow.
Which I mean, we kind of saw in one of the great Superman stories, American Alien, which was kind of again. I always attested that American Alien is what the new 52 Superman should have been. Like that's like how you reinvent the character, which essentially is kind of what we're doing here with this show. So basically, the recent like we're rarely are. It's kind of rare the number of times we've been doing this, but it's kind of interesting to see that we keep kind of going to the well on this. We've essentially in kind of Superman's history lately, we've done 4 attempts at kind of like, and I'm not saying four and like, oh, it's four. It's like, God, too many, but just like 4 unique examples of a younger, kind of like greener Superman versus the seasoned, just kind of adult kind of Superman that you're talking about. Because you have American Alien,
Mm-hmm.
you have American Alien, you have My Adventures of Superman, you have Man of Tomorrow, basically the film that it adapts elements of American Alien, which basically is part of the whole Tomorrowverse thing with the Butch Lukic DC direct-to-video animated films, and presumably the James Gunn Superman that's coming up. So these are like four. Again, that one's more of an assumption, but that's what I'm saying. We're kind of like going for like kind of like how do we bring Superman to the modern age, and seemingly the connecting through line is we kind of we do somewhat of a Superman year one. We kind of see him with not everything figured out. We don't just like, as much as I love it, I think as much as we collectively love it, you take Dawn or Superman, we kind of jump to that point. Like, yes, it's kind of like Superman kind of like revealing himself to the world, but he's very much like, okay, Chris Reeve is like Superman as we know him, like to a T. He doesn't have anything. The only thing he needs to figure out is his love life with Lois Lane, but besides that, he's got everything figured out, right?
The like he's not like it's all the kinks of like he's 100% Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for like the adaptions or the Superman stories that you highlighted, it's all about a Superman in progress that kind
Mm-hmm.
of takes twists and turns and is Superman through and through, but has a little unique flavorings that are specific to the authorial voice behind said story.
Yeah. So something really interesting that this season does, and just with Superman's dilemma this season. So often we see kind of the whole Superman paranoia thing. We do get to that point by the end of the season. Not even by the end of the season. Like we kind of threaded, I'd say probably. Uh, I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I think it's episode 4 onwards. Episode 4 onwards when we really starting to get to the whole like Superman paranoia the world has. But let's just say that we don't just do that. It's not like we're not going to the full like BVS territory there, but we are doing the whole we're doing that, but we're kind of putting it through the lens of first and foremost, Superman is concerned about this, but he never considered like the world, like like his worst nightmares kind of realized in that people just not accepting him goes kind of to the nth degree of like he's a weapon, he's dangerous. Essentially, I think a lot of people, like, I forget if I don't think Kevin's spoken about this show, but he's made the comparison often. I think it's a very apt comparison. There's a lot of Iron Giant in kind of my adventures of Superman in terms of of course, sorry, everyone always makes the causal link because it's a wonderful ending to that film, the whole Iron Giant Superman thing of Superman.
Mm.
So we've kind of, in a sense, we've kind of reverse engineered here. So it's kind of like he realizes he's potentially a gun this season, or at least the world sees him potentially as a gun, and he doesn't like how that feels.
Yeah, and I think that's always a good that's a really good take on Superman because instead of just having to say like, oh, Superman is like trying to deal with his morality or he's trying to get stronger or whatnot, it's about him, you know, dealing with perception. And I think this season does a really good job going to it's not just enough that Superman has to save people. It's that the public has to have a generous, if not, courteous perspective on Superman. And I think the points in which where the villains are ahead or are most dominant is when they shape the narrative to fit with their bigotries and prejudices. And I think that's what makes Superman such a unique character is that he is the foreigner that is willing to ingratiate and be part of the greater whole.
My favorite, well, I think one of my favorite aspects with that and this season is the fact that we engineer it so Superman, episode by episode, in a believable way, is feeling, despite being in a relationship and having his best pal Jimmy Olsen, the whole premise of the show, we get him to a point where you believe he's feeling as alone as he could, and he would reach out, to Kara, essentially reach out to his cousin, which of course leads to a whole basket of trouble, which we'll get to. But yeah, so I like that we kind of engineered our plot to kind of complement all these kind of iconic Superman things and just kind of tying it together, which is to me the big sell of the show is like we're taking kind of like we've done with some of the great Batman stuff, and like Lego Batman, for example, is like we're kind of taking like the years and years of history of the character, and we're just kind of feel like how do we reinvent him for the umpteenth time? Well, I mean, we don't quite reinvent him. We just kind of take what's come before, and we kind of present it in a way of like knowing what we know now then.
It's more about not adding or changing any text but more about the context in which said text or the subtext in which you interpret. So like for like a Batman, like you said, like the whole, Bruce being an outsider and loner, you know, that's mined for both great comedic and dramatic effect in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
in a way that like makes it unique among other Batman media that like highlights or deals with his loneliness.
Yeah. Okay, we have John Ty in the comments. Been a long time. We love John Ty, so glad to have him back.
Hey, John.
Yeah. All right, so Jimmy, so checking with our status quo we set up for the season here. Jimmy Olsen's still a 5 millionaire, or at least kind of like 5 millionaire, and kind of counting down per his net worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a fun. I like the money tracker. I think it's kind of funny, and I love that it leads to kind of like a nice kind of pathos-filled payoff, which is really nice.
And I think it also reflects the intelligence of the writing crew because
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. I think for
It's kind of the Greg Universe thing from Steven Universe, where it's like the whole like Mr. Greg, he had these millions, but over time, it's like he did spend a lot of money.
well, what I meant to say is more like I think if it was any other like creative talent, they probably would have like had Jimmy like go through this arc
Mm-hmm.
that maybe we arbitrary
It's like a
contrived.
jerk millionaire or something.
Yeah, and I appreciate that like Jimmy isn't changed by the money, and Jimmy doesn't become a
He's a
million.
little more showboaty, but he's not changed by it.
Yeah, but like, and I really appreciate that like in a way it wasn't like like all the fortune or money like corrupts people. It's really more just like what do you do with that kind of money? And for Jimmy, like all for the most part, it's like very altruistic, very serving of others. And I think that's kind of like an interesting contrast to say the likes of Anthony Ivo and like Lex, who are a little bit more self-serving. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, uh, yeah, we have a little moment here where they go to Star Labs. They get a story. They go to Star Labs after everyone kind of dogs on poor Superman here for his nice Valentine's Day, nice humble Valentine's Day plans with Lois, which I laughed so hard when he started to read the poem. Can you read my mind? And I got like, oh god, it's terrible. Just oh my god, because originally that was supposed to be a song and a poem, and they kind of like they ended up making it the inner monologue.
Honestly, like as you talked about that moment, what just came to my mind? I think of the moment in Spider-Man 2 where like Otto Octavius is telling Peter to like read MJ poetry.
Ah,
And
yeah, right.
that's just that's just such an endearing thing that like yeah, of course like it's such a dorky like kind of maybe not lame but like cringy thing, but Clark being Clark, like you can't help but smile or just shake your head in an endearing
And
manner.
that does pay off later in Spider-Man 2, because I think but they're having their kind of their fight, like he brings up some poetry.
Also, in a way, that was a Chekhov's gun that got that shot at the end of the season in light of that mind melt thing.
Yep. Yep. Well, no, you're right about that too. But yeah, yeah. So I was going to bring up too, like it's a Spider. It's technically Spider-Man Day, so there's your Spider-Man reference.
Mm.
Yeah, August 1st, it's Spider-Man Day.
Oh, really? I did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
And Jack Quaid is one of the few actors to have voiced both Superman and Spider-Man, or Peter Parker. In this case, but
Yeah,
across
that is true. And across Spider Verse, he plays one of the Spider Verse versions of Peter Parker.
specifically Gwen's Peter.
Yeah, doesn't end well for him, but it's nice they showed up. Yeah. Let's see, real quick. Okay, John Ty. I do really like that Jimmy had an arc with how he uses his money, with how he dealt with the Lex situation. Jimmy redeems himself with spending all his money to save his best friend. And yes, I love that payoff where just like we keep showing like you're thinking comedically, okay, Jimmy's gonna like lose the money. He's gonna be down there. You're wondering like in the background, but like just this really great pathos filled moment of like just to save his best friend without a moment's hesitation, or like a little some whimpering over. Oh, look at the moths fly out of the wallet. Like not for a second. It's like yep, whatever it takes. It's like that's
Yeah,
Jimmy. That's a Jimmy
no,
Olsen I can
and
co-sign right there, buddy. Yeah.
honestly, if Jimmy or like a character like him like became rich, and then had to lose money. If it was like saying Harley Quinn and Kite Man, it like he would be made to be such an idiot that he just
Yep.
didn't have to spend money well. Whereas this, it's like Jimmy's very conscious about what money he's spending, and he doesn't have any hesitation. He doesn't have any like because think of it this way, it's like how morally good is Jimmy as a person that he's willing to spend $5 million over the course of a TV season to just like help out his friends or just do things for for his
And
friends.
buy expensive Valentine's Day cards for everyone for at the office.
Yeah, it's never like he never
Very
buys something.
selfless. He's not coming in all fancy. He's buying some duds for like the Star Lab Symposium. That's about it.
Yeah, he's not like buying like a big yacht or like a statue of himself encased in gold or whatever. He doesn't have that like self-aggrandizement, and I think that's reflected just how like for Jimmy as compared to Lex. Like think of it this way: Alexander Luthor becomes Lex through Jimmy.
Yeah, which is a great idea. Which we should talk about that. So for starters, duh, Rohit. Of course it was Lex.
I will take a humble pie on that part. I did not expect that they would introduce Lex Luthor early on. I figure it's like they would just build up to him, but I think with the way the show operates, it is kind of interesting to have like here's sort of the analogy I make. It's like if the Superman trio of like Lois, Jimmy, and Clark are like the Harry Potter trio, then Lex is like the Draco Malfoy. So it kind of makes sense to have both characters at the beginning of their relative careers and then grow and have like the more complex relationships over time.
Yeah. So I do love that kind of Jimmy, inspires Lex and kind of causes a problem for Superman, completely unintentionally, just being a nice guy.
See, and you know what's
It's very telltale Batman. It's very much like the whole like, okay, he's gonna remember this. Like, oh, guys, he's gonna remember what Jimmy told him, and it's oh boy.
It'd been hilarious if Jimmy was the one to cause Lex to go bald eventually.
Oh god, that would be something.
That is a telltale. It's like the options are fully bald, balding, or full head of hair.
Hmm.
Those are the telltale options. But no, what I really appreciate about, and I think your point about like Jimmy kind of having a deep well of self confidence is that he takes a character like a Lex Luthor, who in the comics is very neurotic, very vain, and have all these neuroses, and become sort of a like top of his industry, became president and all that stuff. And I think there's something interesting to be said about how like Jimmy takes this like really nerdy guy who has like some a chip on his shoulder and kind of mold. It's sort of a neat like zag on the typical trope where like the superhero creates the villain or vice versa. It's like because like in the comics in certain durations it's like Lex became bald because like Superman like blew into like a set of chemicals and like his hair got ruined or something like that. Or like in '89, like Batman drops Jack Napier, becomes the Joker. And this is not like Superman creates Lex Luthor. It's like, oh, it's just people that are of Superman's moral quality that inadvertently push people to have a certain path. And I feel like it would be so interesting in like another universe if like Lex or even a supervillain like motivates or pushes like a Superman supporting character into a good path. Like I honestly like imagine if like Bilbo Bowski like came into the picture because of a Superman villain.
That is something we really should do for season 3. We got to bring in Bibbo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see. Okay, so the big thing in episode 1 is we find the Fortress of Solitude, which is a really cool idea. Superman finally gets to talk to Jor-El properly this time. He learns. He basically we kind of start the whole thing this season of like Superman's need for the Kryptonian heritage and kind of the old kind of like adoptive struggle of like that missing piece of himself, and he kind of He's kind of earned it, and he had like I love seriously one of my favorite moments in the first season was he fought for a moment. He has like when he's on the Kryptonian, essentially the Kryptonian ghost ship or the scout ship, like the one that was like accidentally invading. Um, what we now learn was accidentally invading. Jarrell saves him, and he has like three words like "Kal-El, my son, live." Like those are like and he saves him yet again. I just love that he finally hears like the three words that kind of say everything he kind of needs to hear in that moment. That kind of gives him a clue as to what's going on, and also reenacts like his whole origin there, where he saves his son for a second time. And I thought that was beautiful. So I really appreciate the Jarrell stuff we did here. We also had some really fun comedy with Jarrell, which I did not expect.
Yeah, I think with this season being very much like embracing the sci-fi, the alien aspect of it with Krypton and Kryptonians, there's a lot of like fish out of water comedy that's mined through just Jor-El being this kind of like oddball like AI thing, and then when Kara comes into the picture, her and Jimmy are just such a fun duo to watch.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of like, I tried to tell you this, but then you buried me for over a decade. And the funniest thing, I still think one of the funniest things in the season for me is just what he says. Well, the second funniest thing in the season is um, basically, so let me understand this. You brought your very human mate to the Arctic to this space to this ship. She's like, Philo, if I did this to your mother, I would need to do some sort of grand romantic gesture, which is, of course, the last thing he wants to hear.
Oh,
Because
I remember that. Yeah. Oh man, that's like a running gag. Everyone's just like, come on, Clark, you can do better than that."
soup on the roof, what's wrong with you, Smallville? Come on.
I honestly though, like,
Even Trent Krim doesn't like that. It's Trent Krim. Seriously, Trent Krim's in the back. Did you notice Trent Krim?
I did not.
Yeah, yeah, seriously, the one I think he's in the first season too, but he's really prominent in like the Daily Planet scenes here. He's they modeled him. They must have some Ted Lasso fans on the staff because they modeled one of the Daily Planet reporters to look exactly, I mean exactly, like Trent Krim's. No, like can't be an accident.
just imagine like Jim Gordon shows up and just looks like Jason Sudeikis is Ted Lasso with glasses.
Oh, good. Don't tempt me with that. That would be amazing.
You got Beard as like freaking Hugo Strange or
Oh God. All right. Anywho, so okay, let's see. So okay, so we learn about Kara. So we set that up. We set up that Krypton was invading, and they were warring with other planets, which we're going to explore a little bit more down the line. Uh, Waller and Task Force X, they discover kryptonite, which is going to be bad for Superman. We introduced Damage, one of Waller's new lackeys, powered by Kryptonian technology. Damage is kind of a deep cut DC villain who kind of essentially hulks out in a really unsettling way. And Amanda Waller is definitely the big bad of this season. I mean, second to a certain mechanical foe. She's a straight up bad man. This is not like the. I mean, we have like elements of moral ambiguity with Waller, but she's full on man. She's bad to the bone in the places in this
is
season.
in terms of like evil Amanda Waller depictions, is she more evil than like Viola Davis Amanda Waller or even Telltale Batman Amanda Waller? That
Okay, well you know what's funny? I believe she's the same voice actress as Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad Kills Justice League.
Oh, Deborah Wilson.
I'm pretty sure it's the same actress. Yeah, like 95% sure. Anyway, so well, I mean, in terms of evil, I mean, okay, so clearly she's nowhere near like for example, this one's the on the one side of the scale, the least evil Amanda Waller is the JLU Amanda Waller. She's the most like the least. She's more Nick Fury than she is evil. Um, God, I mean, most evil is. I mean, I don't know. Viola Davis is well, you know, with Viola Davis, we softened her in one of the Suicide, not the other one, not the James Gunn one, but the other one. Um, so
I don't know. I feel like Telltale Batman Amanda Waller was like.
I don't know. It's Then again, I don't know. It's between Telltale Amanda Waller and Justice League kills. Suicide Squad kills Justice League. Amanda was pretty bad. I think she might be the most. She possibly might be the most evil. I mean, she's putting bombs in the younger reincarnated Poison Ivy like a child. So I mean,
Oh man, yeah.
that's pretty bad. I don't know. I think that she might actually be the most evil. So between her and maybe
Yeah,
Telltale
I guess
Waller
like
did.
Telltale Batman Amanda Waller. Tried saying that 5 times. She used to like just a lot. She's basically like her JLU counterpart, but with meets like Jack Bauer 24.
That's
So
the thing. Or I mean, that one's a little bit more of like that's a more gun ho version of
yeah,
JLU.
yeah.
That's so. I mean, I can't. I don't want to call her fully evil. The point being, this Waller that we have. I mean, we're going to get into it. Like she's imprisoning innocent people and experimenting on them for the greater good. Like that's really bad. That's messed up. You
Mhm.
know, she's like trying to. She's like we don't know what she did to that poor reporter. Is just trying to like get the truth out there. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. She's like doing horrible things to reporters and dissidents. I mean, she's doing like boys level stuff, man. That's not right.
Yeah, man, but I mean, like her and like Telltale Batman Amanda Waller are the only Amanda Wallers like outside the comics that like instituted martial law.
Yeah, there you go. As I'm saying, this Waller absolutely did martial law, so that's something.
And also she like the way she dealt with Sam, it's like Jayla, you Amanda Waller for all her like ruthlessness or whatnot, like she wouldn't betray like a close friend of hers.
That's true because we had that. I always turn to that wonderful bit in the Task Force X episode, which is a wonderful episode. Very end, like she's really nice to Rick Flag Jr.
Mm-hmm. Well, even just more like just her relationship with Batman, right? Like,
No, of course. I mean, that's the big one. Yeah. I mean, clearly she's done huge for Batman, but you know,
yeah, it goes whereas for the other like Amanda Waller, it's like she just views it. Just seems like they're often depicted as like just being sick of superheroes and either are dismissive of them or wanting to use them for their own means.
yeah. All right, let's see. So getting back on point here. But so let me actually point this out with Manuel. This is going to be important. Then we'll just kind of round out this episode and transition and go into the next ones. I think the irony of Amanda Waller in this season is she's becoming the worst of Krypton. She's like basically think of it, all of her guys, all of her task force, basically her prototype for the Suicide Squad, all of her men, all the people she's experimenting on later on, she's using Kryptonian technology. She's doing exactly what Brainiac the whole Kryptonian culture via Brainiac was doing, where they were basically, it's kind of the Brainiac ideology. You go to a planet, you take its knowledge and resources, and you do away with it. And in this case, Krypton, the way they kind of fielded that programming through was like, okay, we're going to invade, and that's how we're going to make Krypton into like this thriving society that traditionally we know Krypton to be, is with like this dark kind of like path that leads to
I
that
mean,
utopia. So
it's
Amanda Waller is incidentally she in stopping the invading force, she's using their technology, and she is becoming like she's using the topple everyone. It's she's becoming what she hates.
yeah, she's like you know if we have the worst, if we have to determine who's the worst of like humanity and then like alien or just xeno life for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Waller and Brainiac are kind of like two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. All right, now, let me ask this: do you think the fortress is going to exist without Jor-El after he saves the day? And he basically, he does the Donner cut of Superman 2 thing, where he basically, pulls off one last trick to help his son out, and then he basically the program kind of dies off there. But do you think like similar to Donner Superman? Do you think Fortress is still going to like work after he's gone, or is it just like was the Fortress the one and done? Like, what do you think?
Um, I
Because
guess
the location is intact after he
yeah,
disappears, so that's what I'm wondering.
it'd be kind of cool if you saw like different holograms. Maybe be like Kara's family, and then especially with Kara being part of the group, it could be kind of interesting on her part to kind of figure out, it's like, okay, like Clark had sort of the benefit of growing up on Earth from a young age. Like I'm, you know, in late teens, early 20s. So I'm not at a stage to where I don't have like memories or experiences foreign. And it's just kind of like, I think there could be opportunities for like holograms of other family members. Not That's not like Jor-El. I think honestly, season 3 onward, or season 3 and 4, we could probably see Laura in the picture, and maybe that could be like if seasons 1 and 2 were about Jor-El and like Superman's relationship with like a father figure and whatnot. It'd be kind of interesting to explore sort of like um, Laura, and maybe even Kara like has like a very significant relationship with her mother in the comics, especially in like the Supergirl show.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something that could be explored, with
Sure.
Fortune Call too.
Anyway, again, I love the goodbye with Jarrell. It's something really beautiful. The whole like, we've never had enough time. I hope you can forgive me for leaving you again. Like that's utterly beautiful, man. And again, it's a kind of a nod to Donner Superman, which Donner cut a Superman too, which again was a great scene in that film that was cut due to short sightedness. Um, Not by Donner, I'm saying by the studio and the Soul Kinds and all that kind of rot. Anyway, I love that I love how we mentioned that like you become a shield to your people, a shield, yeah, a shield for the helpless, which is really nice. How we're kind of taking the kind of less the whole the S stands for hope thing, more like the S is absolutely a shield, and basically it's like he's kind of reconfigured that as like as something really meaningful and kind of a double. It's the S shield, it's the S, it's the House of L being used to defend the you know, defend the helpless and everything.
Well, I mean, to add on to that, it's like Superman's like monikers. It's like the Big Blue Boy Scout, the Man of Steel, the Man Tomorrow, the Last Son of Krypton. But and a moniker for him that like was used very much the Golden Age and has been used much lately, outside of say like maybe Grant Morrison's 52 run, is Champion of the Oppressed,
There
and
you go.
I think that's very evident, especially in the second episode.
Yeah. Also, the whole bio, the Kryptonian bio aura powers. We've been kind of like, so again. Not only is he like a shield, just like symbolically, but again, his that power. We have been exploring that a lot this season. So again, there's like he has a built-in shield into his DNA. So there's that too.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that is that I think it addresses a not a problem, but something that people don't when you think about it, it kind of breaks sort of the fun or the appeal of Superman. It's like, oh, he's like the strongest man, has he with all these great powers, but it's like, well, he has this because he's an alien, Kryptonian specifically, so everyone else can have those powers. And but with Superman having those bio aura powers, if the fact that like I don't even know if Korra just displayed or even hinted at that kind of similar power set, but if not, then like that just makes Superman Clark Kent be even more super, not just among humanity, but even among other Kryptonians.
I have a theory. I think Kara does have that ability, but she's never had to use it because of her being under Brainiac's tool. She's never had to protect anyone.
Hmm. Do you think hers would glow red? So you have like blue, you have like kind of electric blue, electric red, but with like Superman, Supergirl.
That here's the thing. I kind of want that to be the case because it'd also be like a deep cut nod to that stupid period of time where Superman was like split into like the blue and the red one.
Hmm. And also, I think it fits. It's kind of like have you heard of like like the red Oni, blue Oni kind of thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, so considering Superman and Supergirl's like vibes and personality, like Superman being blue and Supergirl being red would fit their, personalities and demeanors.
sure. All right, on to episode 2.
Mhm.
Adventures with my girlfriend. All right, so let's see. So Amanda Waller, we have the breakfast gesture, which to interrogate Sam, which I love. I love that as an opening. Which does call to mind, the Doomsday Sanction episode of JLU, where it's like, that's Amanda Waller's, kind of casual morning, and then there's Batman telling her off in the shower. Let's see. Okay, so Clark and Lois, they're on the case to find Lois's missing father. Let's see. So while they're doing that, this kid, a little kid named Billy, he wants help finding his missing father.
No relation to Billy Batson.
Yeah, no, for a mere moment, I did wonder, like, could they be? Nah, come on, no.
Honestly, be hilarious for just random kids to have like the same first names as prominent DC heroes, and they're just like kids. They're just toy with fans a little bit.
Yep. Oh, hello, Oliver, Barry.
Hey Hal, it's like I'm people call me Harold.
No, that's what the grown up Hal Jordan says. Hey, it's Harold, not Hal.
And like some kid for not like sees John as John, and it's like, have you seen the Key and Peele sketch, the substitute teacher?
Yeah.
That's what people think. It's like, oh, this guy is like that kind of substitute teacher. He just doesn't know how to pronounce names and just pronounces John as John.
Okay. Anyway, so they're on the case. I love this too. Like the whole, like, can I pass along a message to Superman for me? Of course, it kind of melts the heart. It's a real sweet scene here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate the News Kid Legion. Have you like Dragon? You're familiar with like Sherlock Holmes stories, right? Like the classic. So you know how like the Sherlock Holmes stories have like the Baker Street Boys or whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool for the News Kid Legion from season 1 and especially season 2 to kind of be that like Baker Street Boys network.
I didn't like I still don't like the cat.
Still don't like the what?
The cat. They keep bringing this cat with them. Like every time they're in the newsroom, it's like the cat from like the News Legion, just kind of like headquarters, and it's like it's like, hey, now we're in the Daily Planet. We keep chasing around the stupid cat just to show it's wanton chaos. It's like, really, do we need because of the cat? It makes me think maybe we only need Flip. Maybe we don't need the rest of the kids because Flip's the only one who's actually contributing anything. The rest of them are just like background extras.
Look, that cat in season 4 or 5 will turn out to be Dexter, and you're gonna see some crazy tragedy for the News Kid Legion. And atrocities will come in, and the kitty will just will cough up blood. It's gonna be great.
Okay, anyway, bloody hairballs. So let's see. Okay, point being, but I love that it's like a lot of that going around. Like, hey, I'm trying to find my missing dad, says Lois, and then so's the kid. Like, me too. It's just a lot of that going around this episode. Missing dads, thanks to Amanda Waller. She keeps kidnapping dads.
No, Billy, your dad just went out for milk.
Oh, he just went out for Chinese food.
The lines are really long. He might still be at the Chinese restaurant.
Yep, he went for Chinese food. He never returned. And then Billy turned into the best obsessive compulsive, police consultant the world's ever seen. It's a Monk reference for the kids out there.
Yeah, no, I was thinking I was like, yeah, but I was thinking because for a second it's like, are you thinking of Psych, but not Psych like Sean has that? Yeah, I appreciate the Monk reference.
Anyway, so so as Jimmy and the interns they're not listening to him, and Perry White just laughs his head off, which was a priceless gag.
Mm-hmm.
We emphasized the importance of the Flamebird videos coming out on time. Because again, it did pay like $5 million for them. You better get those Flamebird videos.
I will always appreciate like the sound whenever that. Honestly, if I was a voice actor and I heard that, it'd be hard for me not to laugh. I was just like,
that's why they added an after post.
Okay, Dragon, thank you for your.
No, but you're right. It's priceless, though. If James Gunn used that, though, and we played that on the set, like there you go. That would be like, oh my god, no one would be able to keep a straight face. Like they go on their phones and the little app music plays, like. Meow.
No, he uses that as the opening like guitar riff for the new Superman theme.
Sure. Okay. Anyway, so let's see. So we go to Strikers. Now this is the best scene in the whole season. All right. Okay. So Lois Clark. Their dynamic's adorable. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Just to talk about what leads to it, though, this is Lois Garth. Their dynamic is simply adorable. Alice Lee, she's a gem for this show. She's perfect. Just the whole you'll be she has this whole elaborate plan. I'll be a rich widow, and you'll be my beautiful bodyguard, and and you know we're gonna go into the prison. They're like, oh, beautiful body, Lois. I don't know about that. Let's try my plan. What's your plan? Like she zooms in, full Superman regalia, and I'm okay with this plan. So the elevator shaft scene, I think, is the MVP scene for the season. Like that's everything you need to know about this show. Just this whole thing of like, hey, they're probably down this elevator shaft, and she's like inching towards the side of it. And this is like the ultimate like Superman Lois conversation here. This whole like Lois, you're gonna jump down the elevator shaft. What? No. Like no. Why? What makes you say that, Lois? I can see you inching towards it with a smile on his face, and it's like, oh no, I'm falling. It's gleeful. It's delightful. It's a far happier version of that scene from season one, where she it's kind of a callback to that, but it's showing how much of a good place they're in compared to where they'll be yet again during the season. But
I would love in season 3 if like she does that and like Superman just to like mess with her, like almost drops her or almost not doesn't catch her. And she just and like just the look on Lois's face is makes like Clark just crack a little smile, and then Lois just gives him like crap for the rest of the episode.
God, that'd be delightful. Yeah, but seriously, I mean, am I crazy? Is that a good scene, or is that
No, it's real. Like this show does such a great job in the relationship between Superman and Lois. And it's a relationship that has such great depictions in not only the comics but in outside media for the most part, especially in the animation space and live action television. And I think like I mentioned this like the last time we talked, the last for season 1, and reiterate the point here is that like Superman and Lois, like they are a like rom-com pairing that just happen to live in a superhero world.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's an earnestness to it, there's not like the drama that's there. It's not like CW drama. It's not like, there's if there's ever like failures of communication, you always feel like there's opportunities for characters to grow and develop rather than just kind of like spinning wheels and whatnot. And part of it's also there's a smaller episode count, but I think there's a great care to like really make Superman and Lois like they had feelings they cared for one another, but over the course of the season you really start to see Superman fall in love with her, and same as well for Lois. And the fact that those two are able to develop and grow, as well as Jimmy. And I think I've never seen any other Superman media where like both Superman, Lois, and Jimmy have like maybe not equal screen time, but equal relevance or importance in the story. Oftentimes it'll be just like it's Superman's the main focus, or it'll be Superman, Lois, and then Jimmy's kind of the side. And then Jimmy, like, he'll just get sort of his main focus and like side stories and all that stuff. But it really appreciate this sort of like friendship trio that go on these adventures that stick by each other side by side. It's lovable. It's evocative of like things like Harry Potter or just any like friendship trio. And the way this season progressed, both through the drama and through the comedy, this is a show that I think for people that are already even into superhero stuff, I'd be willing to like show them, My vs. Superman, because while it has superhero elements, it's the relationship stuff I think where people you come for the superhero stuff and you stay for the relationship stuff, which is something that you wouldn't expect an animated cartoon to do, but the fact it does it so well, I think, is a testament to the writing talent and the voice.
It's them adhering to that Donner Superman philosophy. If you can get the love story working, the rest of it's gonna fall into place.
Yeah, and it makes sense for the love story to work that like the love story to work the way it does, because Superman at the end of the day is a very romantic character when you really think about it. It's like, hey, like imagine a guy who has all this power but uses it to save a kid from falling off a cliff or a calf of a tree, and they smile and are happy about it. And that is such a thing that is such an idealized view of humanity, and Superman being able to personify that and falling in love and getting someone to that is a very cynical or grounded or skeptical character like Lois to fall in love with him. That's the beauty of what makes Superman Superman. So, and I think the show really understands that and hits that home while still having unique stylistic flourishes that make it not just a carbon copy or retread of other depictions of that relationship.
Yeah. All right, so we end up saving a very reluctant Sam Lane, and this is really fun here, where we have we have Superman bumping up against Sam Lane here, which is kind of like an arc for them in the comics too. Just the idea of eventually, they become in-laws and everything, but until that point, they're even though he doesn't fully know that Clark Kent is Superman, which brings about its own kind of set of hilarious circumstances. Just the fact that Superman's he's bumping up against Sam, like Lois like Tatum's like, hey, stop picking fights with my dad, and Superman had a really good reason for that. Just like, hey, look, I don't like the way he treats you, the way he makes you feel about yourself. Like that's like I can't forgive that. That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw in the first, that's the button. Like when people are mean to Lois, that's the button to push with Superman. He doesn't like that.
Yeah, I especially remember when he kind of dressed down Anthony Iva.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing that's what I appreciate is that even though Superman is like he's like a golden retriever, or in this
Clark
case,
Kent, on the other hand.
no. But to quote Ted Lasso, it's like Clark Kent / Superman is a raven-haired retriever, golden retriever. And I think but in spite of him having that joyfulness, that love, when things get serious and when Superman and Clark is going to make a point, they will make a point. And I think that's kind of, it's a good melding or balance of the golden age Superman that's like willing to fight injustice, not just with super villains, but just real life villains, and still able to do the cool, wacky sci-fi stuff. And having that kind of balance, I think, makes him very much a well-rounded Superman. And I think this is kind of shows that this show in particular has something for any Superman fan of any background or experience. There's something for everyone that likes or appreciates Superman as a character.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were mentioning the test subjects thing here. So basically, Amanda Waller is again, she's experimenting on the Billy's father. Just like he basically the whole prison Strikers was turned into like a facade, and all the prisons were used to be experimented on. Which again, sick and wrong. Like the guy who works in the library, not even as a prisoner, is the guy who works in the library of the prison.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping them exonerate themselves or learn more about the legal system or what have you, or get their GEDs or whatever. They
or even some people that don't know how to read or have reading levels. That's how they improve, just by reading books in the library of the prison.
Yeah. So this poor guy, he basically asked the wrong question. He gets thrown in there, and God knows what she was going to do to him. Just again, it's just that's just despicable. That's what the man was just all bad. Then she was going to waste him, waste him and imprison them all, when they escaped.
Yeah, the guy was lucky he had a kid. Imagine if that guy just didn't have any living family members. He'd be
God, yeah, he'd be a goner. Mm-hmm. So that's Amanda Waller absolutely in the wrong there.
Yep.
All because of the paranoia of the invasion. Again, there was a traumatizing invasion that she did go through. Which now this is interesting to me. I'd have to rewatch it, but if memory serves, Zero Day, year-wise, that can't be Kara who does the invasion. That would have to be somebody else.
I think that was just a Kryptonian fleet. I don't think.
Well, no. I'm saying we had a humanoid figure that showed up there.
I thought that was just Brainiac.
That's the thing, but he didn't have the giant Brainiac head though. We saved that to the end of the season. We had we had essentially again, it doesn't look like the giant hulking, kind of like what we revealed to be the Kara suit, but it was somebody.
It'd be kind of cool if it was like, I can't imagine it's like General Zod, because I feel like for
It
this
kind of
show,
has to be though. But you're right though.
well,
We were misdirected on that. So you're right.
well,
There's no
because like,
telling.
because it's like this version of Brainiac is basically a combination of Brainiac and General Zod into one character.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were to be a human, I don't. Have you seen the pictures that were leaked of the Superman season 3 panel?
I saw a few. I saw a few. I didn't see everything, but I saw Superboy and I saw Cyborg Superman. That's all I saw.
Well, I think in light of the fact that Hank Henshaw is in the picture, imagine if season 3 is a very loose adaptation of Death of Superman.
Well, no, sure, but I'm saying that still doesn't answer who like the
No, because my answer is that
Eradicator.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because we have an Easter egg about Eradicator in this season.
What's the Easter egg?
Well, the Easter egg is when Kara is taken over in the finale briefly when she's fighting Superman. He says initiate Eradicator protocol. So I don't know if that's either, but you're right though. There's potentially either it was an actual Eradicator that was the guy from the flashback, or if we completely sidestep that and we still have no idea who that guy is, and that's just our way of doing it, where it's some sort of Kryptonian like override thing.
Or maybe it's not Kryptonian. Maybe it's a Daxam. Mon-El.
There you go. Yeah, there's an idea. Okay, anyway, so let's sorry, getting on point here. Regardless. Let's see. So, point being, there's some tension there. Jimmy and the intern save the day by shedding light on Waller. We have this great gag where Superman breaks the bad guy's guns, and you hear one of them say, like, "Dang it, Superman! It's my favorite gun. Dang it!" Also, we are introduced to Atomic Skull. Atomic Skull's in this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and out of all the villains that are like enhanced by Kryptonian technology, like Atomic Skull is pretty comic book accurate for the most part.
Yeah. All right, so we end the episode. Lex is now working with Amanda Waller after saving her from Parasite, because of course he helped build that suit, so he shuts it down as kind of a way of dazzling Waller. And so he's on team he's on Team Waller, Team Anti-Superman. So that brings us to episode 3. Full Metal Scientist. All right, so Livewire. She's hired to intimidate and silence the Amertech scientist slash kind of the Amertech the potential whistleblowers. Superman saves a familiar character, Silas Stone, aka Cyborg's dad.
Yep, and we get to see also good old John Henry Irons.
Yes. Oh boy, so there's a lot of really good stuff, and kind of our world building this episode too. Silas Stone, who we establish his son's like he's a young son, so my guess would be he's probably like 10 or something, and then 5 years from now he'll be Cyborg.
Well, more like 6 or 7 years.
Well, I'm just saying that it's like teen though, so I'm saying anywhere in theory, so long as he's a teen Titan.
Mm-hmm. Imagine, considering how like to the point of criticism, like all the villains have like Kryptonian technology built on them. Mm-hmm. It'd be kind of funny if like Cyborg came about because of Kryptonian technology mixed in with Victor's, body.
It would make sense. But then his father is Silas Stone. But you're right, though. Like that would actually be the most natural way of doing it, using Kryptonian technology. So,
yeah, because so far in the show, we don't have people with like naturally occurring abilities, or even the traditional like superhero or supervillain origin, where it's like there's an accident or they inject them themselves and they just produce power from their being, rather than like using technology as like a pleasure tool.
Well, okay, so the only. Well, here's the thing. So, Heatwave uses technology. Heatwave. Well, that's the thing. So, Heatwave and the Intergang people, they're using Kryptonian technology. I'm sorry. So let me scratch that. You're basically saying if anyone, like period, like isn't like doesn't have like a link to Kryptonian technology, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're right. Like the only one we have is Mixie. Mixie's the only exception.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's the case that like, and always, and I think it's kind of a cool idea that like Superman, not through like, it's sort of the Superman version of like, oh, when Batman comes around, when Batman came into the picture, it's like he inspired somehow all the villains to come about. Not necessarily Superman himself inspired his villains, but just like his background and the kind of resources and dystopic authoritarian nightmare it was has now seeped in and impacted the citizens of Earth.
Yeah, it's interesting. Plus, again, it's kind of in a twisted way. He's getting Krypton back, but in like the worst way possible.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think it kind of reflects sort of like how really Superman is kind of in a quote unquote realistic world,
Mm-hmm.
and then that realistic world gets more heightened through not just Superman but like alien technology.
Yeah. Let's see. So, oh, sorry. Silas Stone. We save him. Then we have John Henry Irons. So, of course, a lot of Death of Superman set up this season. We have essentially three big nods, four if you count a title, to Death of Superman.
Yeah.
It's which is cool. I will say this though. Like the showrunners optimistically. I don't know how serious they were about this, but it sounds like, if I'm a betting man, they planned out 2 seasons, but they hope the word is they're hoping for 6 seasons in a movie, like 5 to 6 seasons in a movie, like the old adage being 6 seasons in the movie. But it sounds like they're legitimately hoping for like a 5 to 6 season kind of wrote down like a finale movie to cap things off potentially. But
Well, because here's my thing is like, first season you got Superman, second season you got Supergirl, third season you get Superboy, and then after that it's like, who do you add that's like a Superman like
Crypto.
that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also bring in like
Legion of Superheroes.
yeah, you can bring, or even like Mon-El if you have him be like a good guy,
Mm-hmm.
or you can bring the likes of like Superman of China, like Ken Kong, or trying to think. Oh, Power Girl would be interesting.
Well, Power Girl's gonna be tricky, but
Hey! When we get to the Silver St. Cloud episode, they knew how to taste.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. Just anyway. All right. Okay, let's. I was mainly referring to the whole thing where the Power Girl's introductory is always that she's like the multi. Well, then again, actually, because of what we do with Mixie, I mean, actually, Power Girl's pretty possible.
Yeah.
All right, because I was gonna say the whole like bringing her in because sometimes she's like on like Earth 2, and that's how we bring her in, and. But they don't have to do that too. If they really want to like stick to their guns on that, we've introduced like that's how we introduced Kryptonite by the multiverse. So, it's possible. Anyway, so John Henry Irons, I love this take on him. My favorite aspect of it is I love that Superman has great respect for Dr. Irons because as we established like during the first season, Superman does love community outreach. He's a people person. He does love the fact that Dr. Irons does right by the whole Baker line community. It's like that's really wonderful. And of course the whole thing with Steel and Superman is that Steel is a huge fan of Superman. So it's a mutual kind of respect both ways and would lead to following his influence. So that really touched me. That man, they really get who Steel is, and Steel is very much kind of a shafted character because, I mean, let's face it. He's I don't know. I want to say like he might be like the character probably got the I don't know. Would you say he got the shaft in Death of Superman or no?
Like
the comic story. I just mean like in the comics, like when they're like, "Hey, we got 4 potential Superman here." Like, was he like the coolest stuff?
Well, I mean, think of it this way, like Dragon. It's like
I really like Steel. Personally, I really liked him. I just don't know. I don't know what the fan. I forget what the fan response was.
I think Steel is pretty well received. Maybe not in the comics, but here's the fact: it's like Steel showed up in Superman the animated series.
Yeah.
and by extension, like the DCAU. He's in Young Justice.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the New 52, the Decamo universe. He's in Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
He's in this. Like I would not be surprised if, like, in the Superman sequel, we get Steel. Like
Yeah.
I would love to see James Gunn bring in like a black actor that's like about David Corso's age and just have kind of like a Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson dynamic.
Yeah. Occasionally, I always liked Steel, but always felt like they gravitated towards the other Superman because they had cooler designs.
I think also part of it is like, because the thing is, like with Superboy,
Like Steel's
like,
mask was always the hard part of that design. It was always like he had like kind of it was like a metal mask. It was like form fitted to his face. It always like
yeah, no, and I think part of it also it's like for the other three, it's like, all right, Cyborg Superman, there's kind of like the horror element, and he was utilized a lot in like Jeff Johns' run for Green Lantern as like one of the core members. Eradicator has like a unique look, and he kind of has like a Terminator. I mean, even though Cyborg Superman looks like a Terminator, but more the demeanor, and he can do a lot of like old Krypton stories or explore the Kryptonian culture and mythos. And Superboy, like when he's a young teen in the Young Justice, or like when he started out, he's like this punk rock, like take no shit for anyone, and then you see him grow and change to be like just a t-shirt wearing guy, Young Justice, and the dynamic between the fact that he's like,
well, that's a different clone though. It doesn't really count.
No, it's the same clone.
Are you sure about that? I could have sworn like we did all like the reality punch and everything. I can't keep track of which Superboys.
Yeah,
I could have sworn like we revamped him so he was like a fresh clone created by Lex. You're telling me that's the same clone?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, like if that, I mean, it's a retcon like that Jeff Johns put in. Yeah, okay. I mean, no, but yeah, like it was actually funny because like I think remember Jeff Johns like when like Superboy was a Young Justice. I think Jeff Johns wrote in the letters page for either that or like a Superboy comic that like, oh, I have this fan theory, whatever. The Superboy is like half Superman, half Lex Luthor, and then he just willed that into existence. So, kids,
I still love that idea.
I mean, it's a great idea that, sometimes will be done well as in Young Justice or done questionably as in Titans.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's get back on point. Look, John, we're going to bring up we're going to bring up some of these comments, guys. We're just going to try and we're going really long here. We're going to try and fit it into the episodes as they come by. We got a whole Lois Lane episode coming up, so we're going to bring that up then. Anyway, before that, so yeah, let's see. Sam Lane, very messy house guest. A lot of comedy there. I just love the way he says like, "You're a flake, Kent." Just calls him a flake, and like the whole, you're all flighty, you're unreliable, you're bumbling, he's gonna get my daughter hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So so we have some fun comedy there. Thomas Weston, basically the whole deal with Amertech is that Thomas Weston is this very it's kind of an honest critique on big business, just the guy justifying a faulty product that's going to endanger the lives of everyone, and he does not care. Again, he's a very stupid businessman, or draw parallels as they may be. And yeah, just John Henry Irons and Silas Stone having a conscience, like, no, we can't endanger the city like this. And of course, the way they are endangering the city is via the Metallo. So of course, I love Metallo, so I was on my ears perked up the moment I heard, "Oh my God, Metallo!" It's like, yes, like, oh boy. Now again, he's not a guy in the suit, and he's not like a guy that's like, it's like a consciousness in the robot. I'm sure they avoided that because of Brainiac. But on the flip side, though, I hope at some point. Honestly, here's my theory, real quick. I think season 3, I think we're going to combine elements of Metallo in with Cyborg Superman. And that's how we're going to do that. I think we're going to like have him powered or like have Kryptonite incorporated into Cyborg Superman, so it'll be a lot like Metallo.
Yeah, that I think would be an interesting dynamic because the visual of seeing like this Clark, face down with a guy that looks like him, but half his face is like metal and it's coursing green instead of like the like Terminator red, and like Clark just getting defeated, like getting more like languished and in pain. That's like a that's right for good drama.
I'm not saying with Hank Henshaw, who again we introduced in episode 1, Hank Henshaw, who looks a lot like Superman, which I love that as a design standpoint. When I heard the name Hank Henshaw and looked at the guy like, oh my god, that's brilliant. He does look a lot like Superman. That's great.
He very looks like a Hank.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, I think that would be that guy definitely has a lot of anger towards Superman. I don't know, it just feels like a really good candidate for Metallo. Regardless, the Metallo that we have here is very much like an unbeatable army of robots that would be basically powered by like a kind of an arc reactor equivalent, like a power source. Which hey, we might do some of that power source to make it more lethal to Superman.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we get Kryptonite Man in the picture.
Maybe. So Superman and Steel, they team up, and we use the Kryptonian aura to bottle in the giant explosion, which is very Spider-Man 2-esque. The power of the sun pulling my hands. The overloaded tritium, kind of like kind of energy sun, the miniature sun thing.
Yep.
Let's see. A nice bit of live wire, and she's smart to destroy the evidence by threatening. Basically, one hand, I'm going to threaten Dr. Irons, but in reality, I'm just going to destroy this. Live wire is a smart criminal, not a bloodthirsty one, which was a good call for her.
She's kind of like the Black Cat / Catwoman of like this of this show, where like she'll break the law, but she won't be like a complete monster about it.
Yeah. I thought it was so classy at the end of the episode where we have like Clark Kent, writing a piece about like, hey, John Henry Irons is the real hero here. He's doing a lot of good. Like Superman saved the day, but he's not the real hero of the story. Like that was really classy of him to do that.
Well, I even be like, I could see that, but for me, I just thought it was just nice because this Superman, I think, is just someone that like likes and appreciates people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's a real classy move,
Yeah, well, I was thinking because, like, in my mind, it's not just. I mean, it could be also that like he wants to venerate, or hey, it's to be about the people, and that's just the awe or majesty of Superman. But I think it's more just like Superman is the kind of guy that will make you feel like the most important, if not the most significant person. I think back.
He's like Mr. Rogers in that regard.
Yeah, and you remember that scene in is it season 2 or 3 of Superman and Lois where it's like the flashbacks to like the early days of Superman?
I think you're thinking of. I think it's season 1.
Season 1, yeah, it's season 1, and like Lois's producer friend is like, oh, like the way he makes you feel is like, come on, like it's Superman. He's supposed to make you feel that way.
God, I loved it when he was in that Flesher Superman costume. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. All right. Episode 4. 2 lanes diverged. Okay, so this is a big episode. Sam Lane feels that he's been spotted. Amanda Waller's found him, so he's trying to run away to protect Lois, which she doesn't like at all, as we reveal in a very well structured flashback episode. We see Lois and Sam's dynamic. Basically, Sam trained her over the years, which leads to how resourceful Lois is as a reporter. And so, again, I like that there's like kind of a good give and take there.
And train her a lot in the like, oh, I'm like a military soldier. I will make you like a child soldier. Like more in the sense that like he trained her as
like wilderness survival.
Yeah, like be like self-sufficient, all that stuff. And that's kind of where I think like Lois is like being considered the tomboy or the go-getter like comes into play,
Yeah, so I love that it's like the source of her resourcefulness. But there's also that's where she gets her sadness and her distrust from there, where it's like we have like the 3 ages of Lois. We have the little girl, again, her mother was sick at this time, and then we have the teen who's just like freshly the mother has just died.
Mm-hmm.
She's feeling very alone and isolated, and then we have the basically presumably like a year or two before, basically if Lois is 23, this is probably her like age 21, I guess.
Young adult Lois.
Yeah, you very young adult Lois, like beanie Lois, if you will. She's wearing like a beanie or a hat or something.
So what the kids wear?
Oh, of course. Anyway, so we again, it's a really great 3 act structure. I love how it pays off at the end, where it's very art housey, it's very indie movie to a degree. I don't know. It's like she kind of like she the flashback Lois is running, and then we kind of we pan off to reveal she's like she's running to like the current day Lois is like running into like the corner of the street and seeing like her father is gone, like very well edited, very well edited.
It's a well done scene, but I don't. But this is a minor nitpick. I don't feel
Come
like
on, little
it's
girl's missing her father. Come on.
no, not about the scene itself, but about your description of it. I don't think that's like a very. I don't think that's that whole sequence is like an indie movie thing. That's
no,
like
you're okay. Look, the end. I slipped with the. I was struggling to figure out what to call it, but yeah,
it's just like a well done dramatic scene.
Sure.
If
like there's stuff. It's a really well edited scene, but it's like something you'd see, I guess, just as a right average movie. It's very cinematic. Okay, it's just cinematic.
It's artful. There's a kind of like a melancholy to it.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Okay, so we also we get into a bit of the we keep bridging into this really subtly, and this is the most overt we've kind of had it. We addressed kind of the South Korean backstory on Lois, the South Korean lineage.
Yeah, and it's done in a way that felt authentic, that felt personal to just not only the character, but like the fact that
it's the little touches, like the whole calling like the Big Dipper like Little Bear, and like the North Star thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think it speaks to kind of the fact that like this show is very much reflective of like the people who make it, and like the fact that the actress is Asian American. And the fact that this art style is very like
Studio Mirror did it,
Yeah. So it's this kind of audience.
Avatar crew. It's the Korra crew,
Yeah. So it's this kind of audience that are of the particular background or have watched things, that are like the cutesy anime or that sort of aesthetic or vibe. This show is for them and is made by them, and so I appreciate sort of that particular aspect of that episode just shining through.
All right, so John Tai asked, what are your thoughts on the hate that this version of Lois is still getting, even within this new season? I mean, again, I think the hate's very unwarranted. I mean, the little that I haven't heard a lot. Honestly, I've been on the periphery. I've never really seen up close. Like, I've seen nothing but overwhelming love and like, oh my god, this version of Lois is like amazing. It's like one of the best ones yet.
People had a very strong. Some people had a very strong reaction to like Lois like intentionally falling just to prove that Clark is Superman.
But again, I would point him to Donner Superman. That's how that movie opened.
Well, and for me, it's more like Lois doesn't. Like Lois and
he called her out for that. Like that was a very reckless. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't just like she was like lauded or anything for. It was like, hey, that was their first fight.
No. But more to the point, it's like Lois is tough, tenacious, go-getter. Her strengths or the attributes that people like about her can also be her weaknesses in the sense that she's stubborn. She's like bullheaded. She has no sense of boundaries or restraint. That's what good characterization is and good writing is that you have characters whose strengths and weaknesses mirror each other and kind of go back and forth. And that's why the relationships and the dynamics between these three and just the overall vibe of the show just rings true to me because it's like these are people that aren't perfect, but try to do the right thing and, just trying to make the best each day. And I think that's always the temperament and the mindset that guides those three characters and guides really the show as a whole. And that I think for Lois, like maybe she's a little bit more brash or boisterous, but I think sort of the reaction that's unfortunately indicative of a certain place in among in the popular culture. But that's either here or there. I think ultimately Lois, in both the writing, both the voice acting, she's a great depiction, a great testament to what makes Lois Lane such a great character in her own right and in relation to Superman. So I would ask that for anyone who maybe is on the fence or maybe doesn't love this depiction of Lois for whatever reason, I think over the course of the 2 seasons, one can grow to like from liking Lois to loving Lois. And I think this episode is such a good testament to showing what makes Lois tick and what is her destination by the end of the season and the contrast between where she's at.
Oh yeah. Okay. Toyman had a cameo, which is kind of fun. Winslow's shot.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to highlight another John Ty comment that's relevant to this episode. Yeah, my image of Superman has the most likable version of Sam Lane. Most of the time, he's always an unlikable government stooge. I think he's pretty.
Lois, Superman and Lois has a pretty good Sam Lane.
Yeah, but
that's Grandpa Lane though.
Yeah, but I guess also part of it's you kind of wonder how much of it's they're trying to make like for writers when they have Sam Lane in a story, it's how much are they just trying to restrain themselves from just making him be like a wannabe Thunderbolt Ross, or right because it's you have this alien that's trying to do good. I don't trust him, and Sam Lane's hobnobbing with Lex Luthor, Amanda Waller, not just in the anime show, but probably in some comics or whatnot. And there's a tension between him and her. And what's interesting is that with this show, it's it doesn't seem to be an indication that Lucy Lane is in the picture, but it'd be cool if she shows up in the show. Because with how for as much as maybe Sam and Lois don't want to admit it, they're very similar in terms of their temperaments and dispositions. And to a certain extent, and I think it'd be interesting for how does Lucy fit in that picture. Maybe she takes more up to her mom, and then probably after her mom passed, there was an estrangement between Lucy and her dad and her sister, if she exists, or the.
Well, that's the thing. I think here's the thing. Look, I mean, that there's a very small chance there is a Lucy, because I think Lois has to feel alone. She has a sibling, then she's not going through the struggle she's going through. So I don't think, unless it's a thing where the sister went to live with other family members, that's the only way that works. And even so, it just feels like she could probably call up her sister when she wants. So we can't. I don't think we can give her a sister. If we do a sister, it's a multiverse thing. Not when I say multiverse, I don't mean oh yeah, multiverse is a solution to everything. I'm just saying we literally in season 1 we jumped to the multiverse of episode 7 in a really cool way. So I mean it's on the table. We even call it back very briefly in this season, very once.
No, because I think you're onto something. Because when we think about it, it's Lois, her dynamic with Sam, it would have to be different if Lucy or another sibling's in the picture, because for that flashback, it'd be I think Lucy could be there, and then you could have had a contrast between maybe Lois wanting to get her father's attention and Lucy not really caring much, or having that kind of contrast. But it seems the way how Lois is acts, she's very much seems like an only child, which kind of makes her quote unquote found family dynamic with Clark, Jimmy, and now Kara even more stronger and more prominent in that respect.
Yeah. All right, so on the Superman side of things here, we had Jimmy and Clark going to the Star Lab symposium, and everything was kind of nice. We had a really sweet moment inside the little flying chamber, where they're basically tells Jimmy's saved his life a whole bunch of times, but despite being a good friend and being by him. And then we have the reason Jimmy was sought out, the Superman problem debate. Oh God, I just love that. Oh, we put poor Jimmy in this situation, and he's debating against Lex, who again he's the reason that he's there, and he's kind of caught between Lex and Superman, and he's floundering, and he's again. I really think we keep forgetting to bring up hey. Maybe the value of Superman is you keep stopping all these people that are caught. That's how you tell Superman's on the right side there, because people are being endangered, by these other people, by these villains. They keep indiscriminate, Superman's a mess. We see that at the end of this episode, okay? People were destroyed. If someone was destroying all the exhibits instead of Superman, there someone was trying to stop them. We saw this very clearly. He didn't initiate that fight.
I think it's an unfortunate, as some people will say, unfortunately,
it's spin. I mean, Lex spun it. I get that.
No. But I think but more so, I think there's a certain indictment to be made among some people in society that they're willing to jump to that conclusion and think of the worst of Superman. And it makes you think it's like, well, if a Superman were to exist and he acts, like the real deal, like how many people still are untrustworthy of him because they just naturally don't believe any person can be good or good for long.
Yeah. And sadly, that's the world we live in, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I do love that we kind of two big kind of burn moments there, where like Lex turns to Jimmy with the big line of the episode, Earth is for Earthlings.
Oh man, honestly, so you mentioned about Legion of Superheroes. Did you read the Jeff Johns story, Superman Legion? Where Superman like ends up in like a dystopian future with like Earthman and all that.
No.
So in Jeff Johns' run on Superman, or like specifically the Action Comics or what have you, he has a story arc with Gary Frank where Superman is transferred to the Legion, to the time of the Legion of Superheroes, but it's a time period in which like the Legion of Superheroes are like outlawed or on the run, and it's like Earthman and his cadre that are like the superheroes of the Earth, and they're very xenophobic and whatnot. And Superman conveniently doesn't have his power because of something with the sun, and then now he has to like bring the Legion of Superheroes and just like take back the Earth and whatnot. And I think that would be an interesting angle. Obviously, I mean, so if not time travel, then just the kind of like having a Earthman, or even like I'm just trying to imagine like what would a My Adventure Superman version of like Manchester Black and the Elite look like?
Oh boy, God, that's interesting.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if you ever see Manchester Black, he'd be retooled to be like a female, like British punk rocker kind of vibe.
I don't know if we can do that because, well, we kind of running into some Dark Knight Returns, kind of like tattoo problems there.
You can very much retool stuff, It's
Well, I mean, look. So here's the thing: we give her the T-shirt. If we do that, then we're fine. If we can't do the tattoo,
mm-hmm.
Anyway.
I didn't know that was just his chest tattoo in the Union Jack flag till like a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, really?
No, I thought it was just like in the shirt.
Well, no. When I first saw Manchester, I thought the same thing. And I realized, like, oh my god, no, that's tattooed on him.
I guess for me, it's just like, this is kind of thing for like comic books. It's like when you see like men's upper chest, you don't see like their nipples or whatever. So that's kind of like where my mind gets like, well, where are the nipples, right?
Yeah, comics fear the nipples.
All comic book creatives are traumatized by the Schumacher movies.
Yeah, well, to be fair, in animation though, the reason they don't do the nipples is just it's more to animate. It's just more to keep drawing in each each scene.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. We adapt one of my favorite stories. We do Demon's Quest with Batman the Animated Series. We have shirtless Batman. We're not doing like the the Neil Adams like hairy Batman, because I mean that'd be impossible to draw during a whole fight scene with Ra's al Ghul.
Imagine, man. I'd love to see, just as an aside, it'd be so great to see like live action version of that scene. Your DC Batman actor has like the Batman cowl, but he's just like hairy chest and like he's got like his Batman pants. So
that would be cool.
Yeah, but going back to Superman, in regards to Two Lanes Diverged, you can tell. I really appreciate being able to tell or key into the fact that, for as much as like Lois can be hurt by the loss of her mother, Sam, the way he takes it is just so, he's broken, and the way to kind of mend or just not deal with that broken part of him is just, kind of go into like, automatic mode, which is just like hard ass soldier. And, I think on one part, Lois didn't get to have a traditional childhood. By the other hand, Lois, Jimmy, and Clark couldn't be able to get as many jams as they could if Lois didn't have her self-sufficiency, survival skills from her dad.
It's true. So, again, I love that we've engineered. So Superman's at a genuine low point here. We somewhat engineer this here, where he's he doesn't hear the full conversation between Lois and her dad, but he's probably flown off at a great distance by that point, and he's until he gets supercharged by the sun. I don't think he can hear that far yet.
Mhm.
He can hear. I mean, he can hear a lot, but I don't know. He's bummed out.
Yeah.
Regardless, we got him to be engineered to a low point where Jimmy is seemingly turned on. Thanks, Jimmy. You're a real pal. He's seemingly turned on him, and Lois is like, yeah, he is different. He's weird, and he it's a real sad scene. He's like, Kara, I'm feeling really alone. He sends out the beacon, and so Kara is presumably on her way. Also, the military is turning on Superman because, like, hey, he destroyed all our cool stuff. Not him, Waller. So Wade Eiling, the Senator Sackett, and Sackett, Hank Henshaw, and we have CEO. Oh yeah, we have CEO Hamilton, which I wonder if that's Emil Hamilton.
Ooh, that's a good catch. Yeah, I didn't think of that. No.
That's the thing. I wonder if that is supposed to be Emil Hamilton, or I couldn't tell who was who. They didn't really name tags. We know who the general is. We know who. I think the senator was the lady, and I think the CEO. I think Hamilton might have been the guy. So I mean, either way, it still would work. I'm gonna say that's who I think it was. Okay, so episode 5. This one's a divisive episode for some people, but I really like it. Most eligible Superman. So I love a lot of this episode. I love let me put these. I don't dislike any part of this episode. I'm just saying I really like this episode. We have Perry signing Lois and Clark to this to the Bachelorette contest, and Cat Grant ain't having it. I laugh so hard, like, Perry. She's just, of course, Cat Grant's gonna be upset.
And I really appreciate kind of like it's not the kind of the dynamic where it's like Superman is just intensely uncomfortable the entire time, but it's more just so that like the people around him, and more specifically Lois, is just jealous of how much attention Superman gets, especially for Silver St. Cloud.
Yeah.
And my goodness, Silver St. Cloud.
She's a babe.
She is capital B baddie.
Yeah.
God damn. She thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait. Okay, thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, really?
But am I wrong?
I mean, look, you're not wrong, but I'm saying a bowl of oatmeal. Really?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dragon agrees to me.
Look,
we got him.
I'm not. I'm just saying, of all the food items you could have went with oatmeal.
No, it's a reference to like that one meme. Right, where, you know what I'm talking about, right?
What is it, like does the Quaker Road have like a Twitter?
No. There's a guy, like there's this video clip. There's a guy who's like at a hearing, in a criminal hearing, and the DA is reading out like this transcript of like what he said to this undercover cop, and it's like, and like the line was like, "Girl, you're thinking in a bowl of oatmeal," and the guy's just like, "Yep," like he just co-signed, "Yep, that's what I said."
All right. But okay, let's just acknowledge again. Silver St. Cloud, she's drop dead gorgeous. We're gonna say that.
He's fine.
Okay, let's not say it like that. But she's very beautiful. That's Silver St. Cloud. But to be fair, I want to highlight this though, and people point this out too. Although the design work on My Adventures Superman is quite all really not a miss, with the exception of Deathstroke, not a miss amongst the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't help that Deathstroke's voiced by Chris Parnell, who I have very mixed feelings about. But either way.
First it's Ben Schwartz, now it's Chris Parnell.
To be fair, I've never like that. Chris Parnell's not news. It's just I feel bad hating on Chris Parnell. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it's just like he just voices so many characters I don't like, and it's here's like I love Deathstroke. Chris Parnell. It feels like we've cast Jerry from Rick and Morty as Deathstroke, and it just feels like that's not threatening at all.
So I'm going to just call
He's like seriously, it's like of all the Superman characters, like he's the one I just can't quite co-sign. Just like of all the Superman villains, like even though I know Deathstroke not technically a Superman villain, but you know what I mean. So of all the DC villains we have here, this feels like authentic. He's too much of a pretty boy, It's like come on, like Deathstroke's never been that prissy. Come on.
So I'm just going to be texting Josie Campbell, the showrunner.
No, don't leave Josie out of this. Come on.
I'm gonna tell her.
Let her be with the Pussycats. Come on. Don't do that. No.
Oh, I'm texting the showrunner, Josie Campbell. It's like, hey, you should get the Rick and Morty voice actors to play, random characters in My Emergency Superman.
Well, they already have that. Kari Walgreens in it. She plays young Clark Kent.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So now,
I don't mind the Rick and Morty. I'm just saying, literally, Chris Parnell. He's like the one actor for Rick and Morty.
Okay, I just got a text from Kevin Feige, and he just told me that Chris Parnell will play Magneto in the MCU.
Oh, shut up! Come on.
Well, he has quite a magnetic personality.
Oh. Anyway, can we just get back to... My apologies, folks, for my...
Oh, Ben Schwartz is going to be playing MCU...
what's funny that Jacob mentions that? I actually thought... see, Mixie, I gotta be honest, Mixie, he's not Ben Schwartz, but he does have an air of Ben Schwartz to him. Which I think worked for that character, even if it was Ben Schwartz. Which, again, Ben Schwartz not always a deal breaker. Just, after season 1 of DuckTales, not at his best.
Is it just his voice acting you just don't care for? Or?
Well, no, it's just honestly, I think it's just Ben Schwartz's just choice in roles. Because I hear his SNL comedy was good, but I've never really looked into it. They just, I just, for the life of me, I can't. It's just he plays so many terrible characters. But again, maybe he's good. People just keep casting these terrible characters. There's nothing personally against him. He just so often he plays very unlikable characters.
You feel when you see Ben.
Maybe he's just really good at it. It just feels like he's like tanking the movies for me.
You see Ben Schwartz, and he just the way you feel about him is how like Ron Swanson felt about Jean-Ralphio.
I guess that's about right. The whole was Jean-Ralphio the line Ron Swanson had where he's like he's a guest star in life or something.
No, Jean-Ralphio is Ben Schwartz's character.
Oh right, sorry. No, I'm trying to. I heard this Ron Swanson quote recently. I kept thinking that was, but yeah, essentially, yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Okay. The point being, so Superman has been, hornswoggled into attending a bachelor contest because it benefits a children's hospital charity. Which I do love, like the it's like of course he's gonna show up. It's like that's Superman. God love him. Of course he's gonna do that.
I wonder, like, if there's like a draft of this script where it's like there's like charity fraud that happens out there. Like the supervillains come in, we're stealing money from the children's hospital charity.
I don't think you have much mileage in that, Rohith.
You never know. There could be. Honestly, it would have been cool to have like Superman and Jimmy into the most eligible bachelor because my goodness, Jimmy can have as like infinite.
Jimmy has a way with the ladies, even with himself from another multiverse.
Jimmy is all aura, as the kids say.
Okay. Anywho, I love so basically we have this very sitcom-y gag of like Superman has to downplay his feelings for for Lois, which which of course Superman's just a walking charm factory, and everyone but Hank Henshaw is head over heels for him on the panel.
Deep down, well, actually, Hank Henshaw is married. I know he's married in the comics, and then like him and his
Well,
wife.
no, they say he's married. They say he's married in this.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. They carried that over.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke as like Hank is just jealous that like Silver hasn't paid any attention to him.
Well, I think deep down he too likes Superman again, so much so he's going to become Superman in a cyborg form. No, but seriously, what if there was a jealousy of Superman? What if there actually was like a little something there?
I mean, it considering how jealous Lex is of Superman, my goodness, who's the biggest hater?
Now, I don't look in all seriousness. I don't think we're going to go the jealousy direction because I think Hank's just going to be upset because he got blown up. Because at the end of the season, Hank Henshaw actually gets blown up, and that's why we're going to have Cyborg Superman. If you notice.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It's like, oh man,
that's he's gonna have a grudge because of that, most likely. So there's something, something there. So not jealousy, but he just already is now. He's very anti-Superman. This nothing's gonna help that mood for him here. So, but thankfully, standing up for the Man of Steel. It is one of Batman's girlfriends. Yet again, feeding into the whole thing. We have nothing but wall-to-wall attractive, female characters in my adventures in Superman. We got Lois, we got Cat Grant, we got Vicky Vale, we got Livewire. I mean, they're all pretty good looking.
And then Silver is just like,
and she's that's the thing. Look, you would probably wonder how the heck are we ever going to compete with Lois Lane in terms of like attractive and appealing characters? Well,
if Lana shows up and she's like just like a knockout. Oh my god.
Well, know she is. Lana's gonna be either like really. Here's the thing. I think Lana's gonna be not a tomboy, but she's gonna be like kind of like the cute girl next door. I think that's where we're going with it. We have the knockout bombshell and Silver St. Cloud. We have the tom girl, the cute tom girl. Tomboy girl. You know what I mean? And then we have then we're gonna have like the sweet girl next door.
Or like the sophisticated like urbane intellectual who's like, because like isn't Lana Lang in some iterations like into fashion or whatnot?
Well, that's in Superman animated series, yeah,
because I think it's like carried over to a certain extent of the comics where she's like,
well, I don't know about that. Sometimes they're really kind of go
maybe if not fashion like business, but she's always kind of like in a very sophisticated urbane kind of profession or life. So it'd be kind of interesting for like Lois to kind of feel like, oh, I'm just like the lame, just lower class girlfriend, and then Lana Lang is like this jet setting, high flying, kind of girl.
Well, regardless, so we have a lot of chemistry between them, and anyway. So here's the thing: it's a very, to be fair, and this is where I'm sure people are mixed on the episode, is that this plot I like because it's an homage to a thing we did with Superman in the 50s, the Lois Lane comics in the 50s. The whole thing was like we had very rom-com-y kind of plots where it's like Lois wants to find out who Superman is. So what Cat Grant's doing here, like, you better be taking me, Lois, because I know his secrets, like and that whole thing is Superman's not single, anyway. So that's a very kind of like old school kind of Lois Lane 50s comics plot that we're kind of like doing an homage to here. So that was nice. And then we have like the nice, we have kind of take it to a pathos, kind of level from there. But before we get there, Jimmy and Kara, we got to talk about Kara.
Oh, they're a delight. As I said before,
I love this take on Supergirl so much. I mean, I love this take on like the fish out of water Supergirl.
Mm-hmm. Just the fact that like she's just like getting used to the world, and then she has ice cream and she's just in love with it. It's like
that's a carryover. Supergirl does love ice cream, like especially in CW Supergirl.
That's a good call. I was thinking more like, oh, they're doing the thing from Wonder Woman where it's like she's kind of the fish out of water and she has ice cream. It's like, oh, I love ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, gentlemen, if you're trying to woo a warrior-like foreigner who has like advanced abilities or greater power over you, just give them ice cream, and then you got it locked in, baby.
Oh yeah. There you go. Way to a woman's heart, frozen treats.
Honestly, that's a pretty good,
Well,
pass.
the crass way of putting it is the way to a woman's heart is through her thighs, but let's not,
Whoa, Dragon!
with the
My
ice
goodness.
cream, with the ice cream, as
Or,
in
or
all
which
you
side you're referring to? But silver, goddamn, Dragon, goddamn.
I mean, look at all the ice cream that Cara is putting away. I'm just saying.
Whoa!
It's
Are you
the
trying
again
to
the crass way of putting it.
Wow, man. I now I'm just trying to. Yeah, now love advice for Dragon Road. We honestly we could use our spoiler cast to educate the fine folks here who watch on the tribulations of love, but that's neither here nor there. So I guess man, but for ladies, just
Well, some of
put
us
that
believe in monogamy between the two of us here, but
Whoa, what? When did I ever say I was against it? Or like, hold
Or
on,
anyway.
hold on. This is a character assassination, y'all. My goodness.
Anyway.
Feel like JFK after 63.
Wow, that's. I apologize for my co-host here, folks. He's just, Wow, that's a tasteless. We need that joke like we need a hole in the head, Rohit. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's yeah. That joke was a little too mind blowing. I'll give you that.
Anyway, so seriously, Jimmy and Cara.
This is Jacob.
No, the real question is, yes, if we are both pretty, which one of us is Lois Lane pretty, and which one of us is Silver St. Cloud pretty?
As you can tell, I'm obviously Silver St. Cloud.
I think it's interesting that you were the first to say that.
Sometimes it's all a matter of confidence. If you know what you want, you're going to be Silver. If you don't know what you want, you're Lois.
All right. Anyway, so seriously, Cara though, one of the fun things of the design everyone noticed when she first popped up, Android, little nod to Dragon Ball Z with Android 18 with her look, and I love this. Basically, it's the Android 18 outfit with the little Superman shield on the vest, which is a great idea.
Yeah, that's a really cool look. Like I
love it.
Yeah, that honestly, like that's like a look that I would love to see, pop up at like as cosplay at Comic Cons and whatnot.
Yeah. Let's see. So again, there, just Jimmy. Again, there's a thing too. Like, certainly the animated series kind of had like a nod to it when we introduced her. That she and like Jimmy has a crush on her, and we kind of made it very mutual here, which is a really good idea. And the whole fish out of water, just like him show like she's kind of sold on the plan until she actually gets in the room with her cousin. So, and again, it's the fact that Jimmy Olsen he has a tendency to befriend Kryptonian. He's able to woo all the Kryptonians.
So if Jimmy wasn't invincible, he would immediately just riz over the Vulturmites and just save the planet in one fell swoop.
Well, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Vulturmites are like Kryptonians, just a little more violent.
Oh, a little more violent. I'm sorry. Does anyone have a train to catch? A little violent.
I mean, they're bloody violent, but here's the thing: with how, depending on which continent you're talking about, Krypton has advanced technology that can cause even greater bloodshed than the average Vulturmite.
Okay, I think we're getting off topic.
Okay.
the point being, Jimmy he does kind of like much like he befriended Clark, he's kind of befriended Kara, which is going to again kind of in a telltale way. It's going to help save things in the end. Again, Silver St. Cloud, sexy knockout that she is. Lois, very threatened, very jealous of her, but not. I love that it's not just she's not jealous of Superman. Well, yes, Jacob, I do. All right, so anyway, so Lois, I love that she's not jealous of Superman or mad at him per se, but she's just really not liking how she's seeing herself, seeing everyone falling all over him, and it's just making her, kind of feel like undeserving and everything. And they're kind of having this awkward fight in which the whole season. Now, a lot of people had an issue with this episode for this reason, which I would defend like this. Everyone says the secrecy between the two of them, like the Superman not telling her about about the beacon and everything was maybe like it was like kind of like cliche, or the whole like breakup conversation was cliche. But I would argue that the way in which we did it, we saw every opportunity they both were trying to tell each other, and it was just like a thing where they made every attempt to. He doesn't need her permission. He wanted it, but he didn't need it. And by the time they finally have this conversation again, it's not a breakup thing, but he asked the words and she doesn't answer. Now, do you think she was going to break up with him, or do you think it was going to the conversation was going to go on, Rohit?
I think with where Lois was emotionally, I think she was just with how she felt and seeing Superman just like being his charming self with Silver. It just reinforced this sense of feeling abandoned and alone, with the fact that like her dad, was there for her, but not in a way that was meaningful. Maybe not meaningless, but he was not there in a way that was on her terms, on what she wanted or need from her father. And I think with Superman, and especially when she meets him as Clark, the love and trust that she has with Clark is that he is the guy that is willing to reciprocate and love and care for you in the way that you want to be cared and needed for. Because oftentimes in certain relationships where there's a bit of dysfunction or tension, it is often the case that, for one person, they do express love, they do care, they just don't have the same, they're just on the same language or same page as the other person in terms of how they communicate. And for Sam, I think if you were to generally ask him, like he'll probably would say that, hey, like I did care about my kid. I made her be self-sufficient, reliable. And that's just kind of, probably for someone of his age and background, that's how he was raised and so on and so forth. So I think for this, conversation between Lois and Superman, it's a very realistic depiction of two people who have very, they care for one another, but have certain insecurities that are not even about their partner, but just about themselves, that are then externalized or manifested in, criticizing their partner for X, Y, and Z. Because probably in another context, like Lois wouldn't have an issue with like Superman just doing this thing, being funny and sociable. But just the context where she was, especially because the prior episode was a very Lois-centered episode with her dad. She's at a low point, and this, eligible bachelor thing is not helping her self-confidence or self-worth. And I think what also doesn't help, I mean, it was great on a dramatic level, but when Kat told Lois, like, we're the people that get to observe the lives of the worth that you're great, that really hit Lois in a way, because then it's like she
feels unworthy.
Yeah, and her whole thing is about having her her own sense of like importance and noteworthiness, with her being wanting to be the greatest reporter, the most known reporter out there, and with the fact that she's kind of just reduced as like not even set dressing, just an observer for someone else that's more interesting, valuable, and worthwhile to the world. Those kind of arguments or that kind of conversation is not going to quote unquote end well, in a sense that if I feel insecure about my sense of self and I see my partner like, in a good mood or thing. It's less that we want to bring, other people to our level. It's just more like we have no means of change, or we don't think we have a means of changing, and so we're just kind of like lashing out at where we're at. And I think for that conversation to have occurred the way it did, there's no like immediate slanting or feeling that like anyone at the other side was like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like Lois had her reasons, and you could feel for what Lois is going through, but at the same time, you could also feel for what Clark was going through. And I think what I appreciate was that it wasn't like, okay, there's the tension, we're going to resolve the tension for either one. It's more like, especially
it was a conversation. It was kind of a heated moment, which was then interrupted by Supergirl, who has been kind of shafted, and her feelings are kind of hurt right now. Like, there's her cousin. She's already kind of not liking everyone fawning over. She's seeing Superman like unintentionally a moment where he's full of himself and soft, and it's like not at all the first impression that either wanted to make, I'm sure. So
it's more like Kara sees Clark the way he carries himself as like an entertainer rather than like a warrior,
Yeah. So it's basically, it's a very bad first impression, and she doesn't like this. And then we have the awesome reveal, which my jaw dropped when I saw. Oh my God, there is no Zod, only Kara. Like, oh my, at least so far. I'm just saying. The point being, like, we have like the big hulking like design. The fact that like, oh God, that's not General Zod, like we all predicted at the end of the first season. That was actually Kara. That was ingenious. I was Adam. That's why I love episode 5, just that reveal itself, and just the turn. We kidnap Superman. We take him off planet. It's like, oh my God, that's how you end an episode.
That's called pulling an Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us episode 6. The Machine Who Would Be Empire. Now, this might be my favorite episode of season 2. I love this episode a lot. So it's pretty much all just Superman and Kara. We see them bond and learn about each other. Superman, one of the great scenes. While she's basically saying, no, we're going to get you on board. We're going to conquer your planet together once you get kind of your head straight on this matter here. And he's very much like, no, it's, yeah. Anyway, so it's just this whole thing of like, Kara trying to sway him to her side of thinking that no, we need to conquer the planet. Very kind of Viltrumite or very Saiyan kind of philosophy.
Or just imperialistic and
Well, yeah. Well, if you want to say the right thing, but anyway, so I love that Superman is teasing her over her crush with Jimmy. She sees like her little kind of like a little trophy area, a little like totem area, and she sees like the pictures with Jimmy Flamebird. and it just builds. They feel like cousins. They feel like family, and just like the way he's like grabbing the phone, like he's kind of hovering, like she's like reaching for the photo and everything, and hitting him in the face.
And they haven't even spent that much time together, which is the crazy thing. And I think that's a testament.
That's the only human connection she's ever had, though.
Yeah. But that's like a testament to not only the writing, but just the voice acting and like between Jack Quaid, who voices Superman, and I'm trying to remember the name of the actress who voices Supergirl. Kiana Madeira. Like they have a great chemistry. They very much are believable as cousins. And with what happens in that episode, in the end of the episode, you just feel heartbreak.
Kara goes on quite the arc this episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is why I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing where it's like it's not like oh, she's either fully bought into the propaganda or she's like Winter Soldier, brainwashed to do bad things. She's both. Which is such an interesting thing because I feel like
it's wonderfully complicated.
Yeah, I feel like if you were to like describe Kara's arc on paper, you would think it's like, okay, this is just too much. Like pick a lane. Like either she's a true believer that has to learn the error of her ways, or she was, mind control and she comes back and now she has to deal with like what her life where her life goes after that. But instead, it's a bit of both, to where it's like, oh, she's committed to like fighting other aliens and advocating for the Kryptonian way.
Well, what it boils down to is she was wonderfully. She's a literal example of what if Superman did somewhat still have Krypton? What if he wasn't found by humans? What if he was found by essentially? What if he had Krypton in his life? But like the worst of Krypton, like Krypton, basically like at its worst, like was there to raise him. No good.
No, yeah, I'm just kind of just thinking of, so I was thinking, so actually now I know what I was going to say. Michael Emerson as Brainiac is just fantastic casting, and his performance throughout this episode and the entire season is great. And I kind of try to think it to myself, it's like Michael Emerson has voiced other DC. He voiced like the Joker in the Dark Knight Returns, right?
Oh, very memorably. Yes, he did.
Yeah, and actually, now think about it, it's like they were both. I'm just trying to think, because I'm like, I can remember his voice for Joker, and I remember his voice for Brainiac, and it's like obviously there's voice modulation for Brainiac, but the way Emerson goes about voice acting Joker in the Dark Knight Returns, like you can tell Emerson's. It's not just like, oh, this is a guy we know from live action, and he's just like a celebrity voice.
It's not just, oh, look, there's Ben Linus. It's like it's something. Something. There's actually a performance there.
Yeah. There's some like
it's him.
Yeah, like vocal cadence, inflection, like with his performance as the Joker in the Dark Returns. There's like a flighty, like very
I know, and I love you for it. That kind of.
Yeah, like debonair kind of attitude. Whereas for Brainiac, there's this like haunting, like I mean, I don't know if maybe this is like too reductive or kind of a no shit comparison, but like the way that Emerson went about voicing Brainiac, it's like it's very similar to kind of how James Spader like voice acted in a way for Ultron.
Well, yeah, man. The thing there was a lot of humanity in the way,
Yeah. It's like, I think to like say like how Corey Byrne voiced Brainiac in the DCAU, and how like James Spader voiced like Ultron in the MCU. Michael Emerson's Brainiac is a good middle ground between the two.
Well, I think the key to that was this really is I love everything about how they did Brainiac here, where it's the logic is Brainiac, he ripped out presumably Kandor, which I think is an ingenious way of doing the bottle city of Kandor. He basically, his base, his whole like his CPU and everything is in like part of like basically like a citadel portion of Krypton, which we're calling Kandor. So that way we have the bottle city thing. And basically it's just the odd fatherly dynamic is what really has this standout amongst the bunch here. Now, and unfortunately, when this came out, you also had the Crisis on Infinite Earths animated film, which basically did kind of a similar idea with not with Brainiac, but with Supergirl being adopted, basically being found by Marnuvu, the Monitor. So unfortunately, they kind of stole its thunder there. But like this, I think My Instrument did it far better and had a better payoff to it. So there's not really much of a comparison there. My point being, we had this odd humanity with Brainiac in that he is the adoptive father of Kara, and Kara does see this computer as her non-biological father. Sorry, it's a running gag. Gotta put that in there. But that's the thing. So it's like this odd fatherly dynamic with Kara in parallel to the Kents that found her and raised her, and you get a sense that Brainiac later on we have this wonderful thing where he does care about her, but he will instantly sacrifice her in the pursuit of empire.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the very chilling and in a way it's you almost feel like in another universe, like you could be a version of Brainiac that would feel more empathetic and more
humanistic, and care for Kara. And actually, now that I think about it, you know how like for in the comics and certain adaptations, like there's a romantic relationship between Supergirl and Brainiac 5.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, there's your Electra complex there. Yeah.
yeah, just kind of like you can really that there would be so many. Well, I guess it's like if you were to like the other iterations of Brainiac would have to be very different, like visually, because for Brainiac I always think of just like the green,
Mhm.
skin. So
So
it'd be
here
kind of
they
cool.
very much did the whole Kryptonian shape technology, and we have like basically we boil Brainiac down to shapes. We have to have those 3 circles.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like for Brainiac, like it's he very specifically Kryptonian, from of Krypton. It'd be very cool if like I mean, there has to be some remnants of Brainiac that, whether of their own volition or through an outside force, end up on like a random planet, and then that like parts like regenerate or iterate or whatever,
Yeah.
and Kalub, like the planet Kalub, is birthed out of like the death of the first Brainiac, and you kind of
Oh,
have
that would be a way of like we get like kind of an organic version of Brainiac, which we toyed around with here in a very Ultron-y kind of way with like Ultron's plans for the Vision with Superman's body. So we did, it'd be a way of doing it. Here's what I love about this Brainiac too is the fact that again it's like if Superman had his Kryptonian heritage but was without the human component, just with it's kind of like with Jor-El, it's very much kind of like the Jor-El's arc to a degree, where like it's Superman's bond with his father via Kryptonian technology, but inverted in this twisted way with Kara, where it's like what if Superman was raised by the AI of his father alone?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing through the illusion of of home. Anyway, so we have the Kryptonian projection tech, which of course we pay off later. There, we have the flashback to playing catch, which I love this. This is great. It's very Brad Bird-esque here. It's very it's very Incredibles. It's a very Incredibles-esque conversation here about like Kara has this point about they were hiding. They told you that they taught you to hid. They didn't embrace you and your potential and your power and everything. They didn't do that. And of course, they were protecting him, but that's the thing that they were trying to temper his ability. So I love that Kara does somewhat have a point there, and then of course she then gloms onto that with the whole it brings him to thinking about the Lois breakup, which is kind of his emotional kryptonite this season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have some fun in space, like throwing giant snowballs and everything at each other. We see that Supergirl. And this is the thing with the character. She always loved, learning, learning about other cultures and everything. Which, of course, we see with the plan. We also see with her Legion of Superhero days. So it's kind of a built-in thing with the character. So I like the whole mementos of Thanagar and what have you. And then we get we basically learn about Krypton's world building here in the scene where Brainiac has Superman square off against the programs of like the last remaining warriors of the now extinct races. Which, by the way, so cruel that Superman essentially is fighting versions of himself from other planets, like the last survivors who are like these great heroes or like warriors from these planets that are no longer around, much like he is like for Krypton.
And also,
One's a Green Lantern.
well, now, I mean, not only is it like the last of their kind, but this is the first time we've seen Superman fighting aliens.
Yeah.
And I think, depending on how far the show goes, like imagine this Superman go up against Mongol or War World and eventually like
Lobo.
Yeah. And I think with sort of how Josie Campbell made it clear that they're doing, wanting to focus on the sci-fi things for the Superman's like Martian Manhunter, the Green Lantern Corps, and really the emotional spectrum. I think you could do like a cool thing out that. Adam Strange, I think with this episode, I mentioned before like the sci-fi-ness of it all. It's like seeing Brainiac come into the fold and the way he's designed and looks
He's very much stylistically reminds me of a lot of the robots in The Creator,
Mm-hmm.
and like the sort of that triangular geometric shape. And I think that there's sort of a like it.
Most important shape ever, the triangle.
Yeah, I think part of it also is like the way it looks. It kind of looks like how at a certain angle it looks kind of like a hat, and like there's like the human face, or the face is like at the bottom or the front end, and like the top part is less like a big head and more like a hatter. It's just kind of like a samurai kind of a feel. But I think just Brainiac, the way he looks, and I think the way like sort of the technology, the alien aspect of it, it's there's an effort to not have it be like, oh, it's just Earth, but just with a different coat of paint. There's a genuine like unique set of design principles, fashion, and especially when we see like sort of the hologram version of Krypton. They're the show goes out of its way to make it that like humans are a unique species, and like for other alien species to exist out there, they're pretty unique in their own right. So
Yeah, so that's what I want to get into as well. Less visually, it's more like what gets us there. Is I do love the fact that Krypton's world building is they became advanced by conquering and basically appropriating the technology of the worlds to make them the empire, the utopia like empire that we traditionally associate with Krypton, all which is so in line with Brainiac's programming about like take all the information from the planet and destroy it. I love that so much. And I thought that was such good writing. It was such a good idea of like how to readapt. Like if we're gonna paint Krypton again, we've seen Krypton painting a little bit more of a like we had like a war on its own planet in Man of Steel, so it's not out of the realm of possibility Krypton could do that. Admittedly, again, we're coming off the heels of Invincible, so I'm sure people have made their comparisons, but still though I think it's a good idea, and it's also showing the faults of Krypton, and also it presents a really big problem for Superman. If people came to learn this, they like on Earth again, that it's going to feed in all the Superman paranoia that Amanda Waller's going to make a meal out of.
not really Superman paranoia, just paranoia of aliens altogether.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It's going to hurt, like like in the whole Earth is for aliens thing. Lex is going to dine out on that one for years.
Mhm.
Anyway, so of course, Kara has her realization. I want to mention this too. It's this episode and the next episode specifically. I love the score and the music and the themes on this show, and I love just like the way we play Kara's realization when she desperately goes to these planets and she sees like they're all desolated, and like then she sees the hieroglyphic of like her, like conquering the planet and like murdering all the people, and you hear the screams and she's just devastated, and just she's at a utter low point, like adrift in space. And that's just this just a wonderful episode. Just like then at their darkest hour of the soul, there's Jimmy Flamebird and company. Yeah, that brings us to episode 7.
This is my oh no, it's not episode 7. It's the episode after, but episode 7, Olsen's 11, is a very fun episode.
It's a fun episode. There's one flaw with it. It's not a flaw that bothers me, but it is a flaw. I was binging with some friends and they pointed this out. I was like, I couldn't really retort. It's like, oh wow. So that with the end, as much as I love the end of episode 6, this there's dramatic suspension of disbelief here, where it's like, okay, we know they're gonna get there, so we can't really. Seriously, my favorite part of episode 7 is when Livewire and Heatwave come back to save the day, because that's what I'm head over heels for the score in that scene, and just the triumphantness of it, and the whole like it's very triumphant. It's very great. It's a great like what the heck are we gonna do now? They got to get out of there somehow. I love that moment, but then you realize like, well, I guess it's not really much of a surprise because we know they're going to end up there, and it makes you wonder if like we should have like
Well,
engineered it a little bit, but
well, I guess the surprise is like, how are they going to get out of the situation? Well, it's not like I think
I mean, I'm with you. I think it plays enough, but it does make you wonder. Like, I mean, just given how these episodes are structured, could 7 have gone before 6?
It could have.
Yeah.
I think the way it was, you kind of need like because as soon as like Clark got kidnapped, you kind of want to follow what happened to
Yeah,
Clark.
I know. Yeah.
And then when you have that big dramatic moment, then it's kind of like, all right, you retrace the steps. And I think what's really cool about sort of the episode, I think what helps with the episode order is that you get to see how like Superman just being himself can rub off of Supergirl in a good way, and then but she's still under brain extra control. In this, Jimmy and Lois being who they are got to make like hardened criminals like Livewire and Heatwave like help them out, help them steal technology to save Superman.
By the way, it becomes apparent to me the more I watch the show. Another villain kind of quibble. I like Heatwave, but it does feel like why not just make Heatwave Volcana? I mean, look, I know Volcana had natural abilities, but so did Livewire. It's like, what's the difference? At this point, we might as well just make her Volcana.
Hmm.
Because it feels like we're just going out of her way, like, hey, let's have a a different DC villain in there. It's like, well, I mean, sure, but just it just seems like you kind of wanted a tough guy archetype, so let's use Rory like Heatwave. But I don't think unless you've seen Legends of Tomorrow, no one's really gonna know that. You basically can do anything you want with that's the thing. It's like it seems like I know it's a kind of a blank slate of a character, but still, Volcana. It's just
I think for all intents and purposes, like Livewire in My Adventure Superman is like similar-ish enough to like other versions of Livewire. Maybe she's not as like super, out there. She's not as like exuberant as her DCAU counterpart by comparison, but she certainly has like a bit of a bite to her. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more the fact that like Livewire and Heatwave have more similar vibes than say Livewire and Volcana. If anything, Volcana and Poison Ivy have similar vibes. So I think it's more about like which energies kind of would, if you were to, because like if you were to adapt Volcana into My Adventure Superman, she would kind of be like a Vicky Vale or like a Silver St. Cloud, a Femme Fatale, whatever. Because if you any other way, you like why adapt Volcana? At least with like Heatwave, it's like it's kind of like it's like a more like tomboy, like Katie O'Brien kind of like person, and she's paired up with like the Han Solo, like I don't really care, but I do care in some ways, kind of a deal.
Okay. Anyway, so Amanda Waller has declared martial law. She detains this poor reporter guy. He's just like trying to say, well, no, we actually saw that Superman. He was trying to save everyone from this demented Supergirl Kryptonian. And so let's show the footage. It's like no. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Cart this guy away, put him in Guantanamo. It's like
how tempted do you think someone was like for Amanda Waller to say fake news?
Oh, no one was tempted to do that. Come on.
It was on the back of someone's mind, but
no. All right, anyway, so let's see. So Jimmy and Lois, they mount a rescue via Livewire, and again Jimmy throws it all away to save his friend without hesitation. And we already kind of talked about it. It's a great moment. Let's see. Lex puts Slade in his place with the Metallos and ends up working out pretty well for him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We have a kind of a fun heist that we get Monsieur Mala and the Brain in on as they've kind of been traveling the multiverse, and now are in comic accurate costumes.
You know what's my favorite part of that heist?
What?
It's Jimmy talking to the security guard.
Yeah. So the security, it was so sweet. Just the idea the security guard wants to visit his grandmother in the retirement home. It's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so sad Jimmy got this poor guy fired.
Well,
look, I want him to not be fired, but I don't see how he's going to keep.
If Jimmy has any money left over, maybe he'll give.
He doesn't have any money left over. He gave it all Livewire. We all saw it.
That's true.
I mean, he's making. I mean, look, he's making his average salary, but that's again, that's my take on it was that Jimmy, he sold it for a lump sum, and then he's just making his regular his regular salary as like I guess more like Flamebird. It's probably upgraded photographer of Flamebird poster, but
Yeah, he should have been. He wasn't like a smart rich guy and didn't put his money into like stocks or assets or index funds.
I mean, look, we saw he had dipped into the money a little bit from the beginning, but that's not
Yeah.
I don't think it was a lot. Look, optimistically, I like to think the guy got away with it for a day, but still, I worry for that security guard. He might come back wanting revenge against Jimmy Olsen.
What did we know the security guard's name?
No.
Okay.
Well, we had a first name on him, but we didn't have like a full name.
Okay, because if there was a name, it'd be funny. He was like John Corbin, and because
that'd be great.
Superman doesn't create Superman villains.
There you go. He's like Tony Stark. He just keeps creating them.
So in a multiverse, we'll see Jimmy as Lex Luthor.
There you go. Well, he's got red hair, so he's like the tradition. Well, sorry, let's scratch that tradition. You go.
Hey, black people could have red hair.
No. What I mean is we could do like the full on, like traditional. Like we'd swap it so it's like old school, like freckles and like the red headed Jimmy, the bow tie, but he's Lex. We make him look like Gene Hackman Lex.
Oh, so he's bald, but he just has like a wig.
Well, no. Well, sorry, scratch that. I'm saying if we do like a flashback to how he lost the hair, then he'd have the red. But I don't know. He might actually. That's the thing. Actually, he could have the wig. Let's give him the wig like Gene Hackman. That's how we give him like the bow tie and everything.
Yeah.
You didn't like that at all, did you?
No. I'm just thinking like because honestly, like it'd be. I'm just trying to imagine like just regular Jimmy but bald, and like a. Honestly, if he was like if it was like bald Jimmy, that.
There you go. That's how you do it.
No. If Lex is Archie Andrews, Jughead is Otis. Betty and Veronica could be whatever love interests have been paired up with Lex Luthor.
Miss Tessmacher. Miss Tessmacher.
That's Veronica. Then who's Mercy Graves?
That's Betty.
Hmm.
Well, I think it'd be reverse, but that's essentially, yeah. No, actually, Betty's going to be Miss Tessmacher, and Veronica's going to be Mercy. There you go. Now you're all set. Okay, so anyway, let's see. Getting back to the episode. Okay, anyways, the point being, they pull off the heist, they steal the ship, and they are in space. And big thing, Jimmy had to kind of calm Lois down and kind of like tell her, you got to give Kara a chance to explain. Basically, pointing out she didn't have anyone like Clark has us. So it's a complicated situation. We should hear her out.
Yeah.
Again, Jimmy's sticking to his guns here, and we have like the good line, like "Love is not for cowards." Good line.
That's going to be on every Valentine's Day card.
And we know what's going to happen when you open those Valentine's Day cards.
What?
You're going to hear that. Kind of you're going to hear that sound. It's going to like spurt out like some confetti.
No, it's like it's a shriek.
And then of course, like tucked in like a little depending on who you give the Valentine to, you're gonna have like a little trading card of Silver St. Cloud, but
Why is Silver St. Cloud on a trading card?
I don't know. It's just like it's kind of like those old. It's kind of like those old.
Is it just like is there like a secret collect? Is there like a hobby of like trading cards for like hot fictional women? Like what's going on, Dragon? What are you doing?
Well, if not, there should be now.
Yay, man! You heard it right here, folks. So you wanted me to Imagineer?
You know what we're gonna call it?
What?
Rohit Dar's Little Black Book.
No. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Yep, there's the Monday edition, there's the
Uh,
Tuesday
all
edition,
right,
there's
all right.
Wednesday,
I'm
there's
just
the
going. All
twins
right,
for
I'm just
Thursday,
going. Okay,
there's the spinsters for Friday.
here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to text James Gunn. I'm gonna tell him, hey, get Chris Parnell to play either Jay Garrick, the Flash, or he should play Commissioner Gordon.
Don't you dare say those words to me
Yes.
again.
And he doesn't have a full mustache. He just has like a thin, like Salvador Dali mustache. And instead of having square rim glasses, he just has like the like Oakley shades.
That was the last time we're having Rohit Dar on, I'm afraid. You make that phone call, we're done.
Fine. I'll send her by carrier pigeon.
Okay, anyway. So, episode 8. The death of Clark Kent. So this, I was so thrilled. Like, we had the Black Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a great reinvention of the Black Mercy, tying it in the Brainiac, making the technology and the whole. Basically, we build to the traditional thing the Black Mercy does, where it's kind of like basically we're going through his mind, and then by the end of it, like we've beaten him, we give him everything he wants, and kind of like, which is the whole sell of the Black Mercy. You're at the mercy of whoever's giving it to you, usually like the black-hearted forces, if you will. And it's you are basically now, you're subject to your own fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the way that this like episode went, just sort of the surrealistic aspects of it for Clark, and Black Mercy, whenever it's brought into a story, if done well, it's always a great time on a storytelling level, because you get to really be able to get to the psyche of a character in a way that's not just as brief as like a dream, or as like lurid and like, oh, you're being hallucinated, like a Black Mercy, but especially in the DCAU episode for the man who has everything. Like it's always it's a great storytelling tool that allows you to do some interesting stories that you couldn't necessarily do in a like traditional DC universe or DC story.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So, we kind of recap a little. Basically, Brainiac's trying to find Superman's weakness so he can take over his body. And, we have a bit of a recap on season 1 to see, like, kind of like the feats of strength that he's been able to pull off there. And we see basically determines, oh, yeah, the Kryptonian aura thing. That's kind of the key, how he keeps pushing his limits, what's driving it. So then we see the whole, we get into Superman's fear of rejection due to his immigrant status, which again is kind of the universal outsider vibe too, which we have kind of like coded into that. Which again is kind of the key to how you make Superman relatable. Again, he's got very human problems. He's got very it's everyone's fear of not being love not being reciprocated, of the fear of abandonment, again, like the struggles of the adoptive child. There's a lot there for him.
Mm-hmm.
So we also see what I love in this episode, especially through Emerson, his performance, is I love seeing how his control manipulation works, where he's gaslighting him with the facts of like, you did imagine her saying something like this at the top of the season during your nightmare. So I'm going to use that memory and I'm going to put it here to have her say things that are pretty much like that, but I'm going to target it more to what exactly you're thinking about. I'm going to take that line, I'm going to put it on this rooftop memory. And then, he'll question, and then I'll show him like a real memory. It's just again, seeing him like psychologically, kind of break Superman down is like, and being seemingly being friendly and on his side, and just kind of trying to convince him that to see things his way. I mean, that's great.
No, and what I appreciate is that there's a further down between Brainiac and Kara. There's a part like you can feel a hesitation and just kind of conflict for Kara, because for a lot of her life, Brainiac has been the one staple, and I think with her trying to like deal with sort of the implications of what she had to carry out for the Kryptonian Empire and all that wreaked havoc upon other planets. There is just such a strong, through line that Kara just gains this sort of emancipation, this freedom, but it's, against this horrifically, not even like physically abusive, just this emotionally, controlling, manipulative. Like it's on the level of like if you were to find
An
any,
abusive step parent.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, of course. We also have Jimmy, Lois, and Supergirl kind of like joining forces to take out to save Clark and stop Brainiac and seemingly like fix what's wrong with my robot dad.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we revealed Brainiac's utterly again Kara. He's utterly a monster. He's forced you to do terrible things as he's doing to poor Clark right now. Ultimately, turns Superman. Basically, again, his simulation is like it's the life on Krypton with family and belonging that he kind of dreamed of and never had. And that's kind of what he's going off to. And while that's happening, we get scary anime Superman.
Yeah, that was quite a sight to see.
Of course, this whole scary anime Superman thing, big parallels to the Legacy finale from Superman the Animated Series, in which Superman's body was, basically he was mind controlled and he was used to take over Metropolis and kind of almost conquer the planet. So some parallels there. I'm sure they were looking at that. Let's see. So again, Brainiac, big moment here was like he's willing to like he tells Kara like I loved you like my own daughter, and I still love you, but like not for a moment I'll let you get in the way of building the empire. And we have again just Emerson just acting the heck out of this.
Yeah, and for the other actress, I wish I just remember the name at the top of my head. It is Kiana Madeira. Like Kiana Madeira, when she's acting against Michael Emerson, she holds her own really well, and that's not easy to like not be kind of overshadowed by Michael Emerson, who he's like Benjamin Linus from Lost, and like he's no slouch in the acting department or voice acting. So I really appreciated the writing and directing for whenever those two are on screen together and sharing a scene. It's always just interesting to watch. It's compelling.
Okay, so real quick, a bit of levity before we transition. Again, it's really adorable. The whole, Jimmy Flamebird. I feel admiration for you, and then she just runs off.
Oh man,
like the awkward schoolgirl with a crush. It's adorable.
That her relationship with Jimmy is such a delight in the sense that,
like there's the spinoff. Forget My Adventures with Superman. My relationship with Jimmy Olsen. There's your spinoff.
My Life with Jimmy.
My Life with Jimmy.
What I really appreciate, like comparing the two relationships, is that like both Superman and Kara are like head over heels for their human partner, and their human partner is very like, for the most part, like confident and self-assured. And I think that's something that's really attractive for both these like two Kryptonians, is that like the partners that they're into, they're self-assured, confident, and
strong, and also strong women.
Yeah.
I like to think you can kind of see it in Jor-El. I think this is kind of a thing with the, I think she's kind of the men in the show, but even the Kryptonians, I think they like strong-willed women.
Hey, to quote Spike from Cowboy Bebop, I like a girl that can kick my ass.
Well, I think we all do, but to some degree.
Yep.
Yeah. Anywho, okay, so we end on the downbeat here. Everyone's kind of like chucked into space. We use the kryptonite, but again, he's just willing to, he'll let Kara and Kal-El die, from Jimmy. It's the fact that Jimmy does it too without realizing. Oh God, poor Kara, she's going to be affected by the kryptonite. But it's kind of like, he needs to get Brainiac out of there. It doesn't work. Brainiac has that little kryptonite sphere, and they're chucked into the vacuum space. They're saved by Monsieur Mala and the brain, and things are all sad now.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to 9. Pierce the heavens, Superman.
Man, I have to say, just as an aside, the episode titles for this season are just great.
Yeah, they are. You betcha.
They're very comic booky in a way that isn't like cheesy or overdoing it. It's just the right amount of like dramatic flair.
So, so long story short, this episode is kind of it's kind of Lois. She basically followed him into the Black Mercy at the end of last episode, and we're kind of doing a Groundhog Day style, kind of like kind of appeal to Superman, where there's a lot of comedy here. Where Lois is, she's in. Basically, it's really funny. A lot of comedy Lois hears in a series of just like her continually like going through this loop, kind of finding him and convincing him to that they're in a relationship, and that he's dreaming. And what's really beautiful about this is it's they have the chance to fall. It shows that in these completely foreign circumstances. Well, again, her mind is initially a little memory wiped too, where again, their connection with the cake and everything, kind of like snaps her out and reminds her why she's in the Black Mercy, trying to snap him out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that they get the chance to fall in love with each other completely clean.
You know what it reminds
over
me
again.
of?
And I think that's really, what does it remind you of?
It reminds me of, and it's kind of funny for me to say that, because I just thought of it just now in light of one of the actors this season. It reminds me of the last season of Lost, like for everyone, quote unquote, the afterlife, when they regain their memories and like rediscover the relationship. So that just came to my mind just now. And I think this is like a great testament to why Superman and Lois are one of the best couples in superhero fiction.
And you know what else this pays off really nicely?
What?
All that survival training from Sam Lane.
True, yeah.
She's got to traverse the Kryptonian, basically kind of this projection of Krypton over and over again, and get past all these forces to get there.
But also, I think it speaks to just the fact that like there is kind of an interesting like existential notion that's kind of a play. Is like, even if your memories are wiped, there is some like, if not a soul, just some essence of yourself that will always find a way. So even if you're in such a strong, deep relationship and all your memories taken away, somehow you will reconnect and rediscover your love, not your memories of one another. And I think this show is, if I were to describe it in one word, it's just romantic. And I wouldn't think like a superhero, animated cartoon could be romantic in a way that wasn't cringy or off-putting. But this, I think, is just like, if you don't have a smile or like just pump your fist up at the end of the episode, like you are like, you make the Grinch look like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. So I love, by the way, I love the little Grant Morrison nod with All-Star Superman where he's feeding the Sun Eater.
Oh, that's right.
Which is nice because it's like, it's the whole, like, the fact that even Reset, even like raised Kryptonian, just Kal-El on the planet, the average Joe, he feels for the, he has a sympathy for the last of its kind. Now, you have to wonder, though, is that just like him naturally, or is that because, again, deep down amidst the programming, the real him is there with all the original memories, and that's why.
So I can see like him being very in tuned or very sensitive to those that are the last of their kind. I always think that like, Clark is just a guy who like likes animals, and I think to sort of like how for say Superman Birthright, I know Mark Waid had sort of the creative decision of making Clark a vegan, and part of that comes from the fact that he can see the life force of like all living beings. And obviously, our Clark doesn't have that kind of power, but in terms of sort of the personality and the kind of compassion care, I imagine like this Clark can be very affectionate towards like animals, and especially growing up on a farm. I just think that's kind of like the way he treats like Sunny and just pets, like the Superman I can buy having crypto as a pet, and it just won't feel incongruent with his character and his motivations and all that stuff. Dragon, you there? Can anyone? Okay. So just to go on this episode, I think, like I said, as Dragon will try to have a voice here hopefully soon. I really appreciate in this episode, with sort of the Groundhog Day scenario, an aspect that you'll be seeing sort of like the presence of Jorah and Laura, and kind of seeing them in this very, AI kind of corrupt version where they're just kind of antagonistic toward Lois. For me, it's a kind of a cool, neat twist, and hopefully in a future season, I would kind of love to see like somehow in some way like Superman and Lois getting to meet, Jorah and Laura and having to interact with them in a way. So, yeah. And well, I'll say this is that the way this episode ends, with Brainiac getting into the Metallos and just beating up Kara and Superman. What a great turn on Michael Emerson's part at the end of the episode, and I think the way he's able to just have a sense of menace through just a line or two, just an inflection. I think ultimately this is where the chips are down, and this is kind of where everyone has to put all their foot forward. And I think this is where the final episode, if hopefully we can transition to the final episode once Dragon comes back in. Oh, the good to mention on my before we go off to talking about episode 10, I will say that the Daily Planet staff coming in to save Kara. Oh, is that Dragon?
Yes.
All right.
All right, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, good. Yeah, so the daily, the save by the Daily Planet staff. This was great because again, it was just again it's so unlawful what Waller keeps doing, and the fact that it's the fact that he's trying to warn like, hey, listen, invading army coming, gonna be important. You should probably listen to this. Just arrest him and basically put him like a black site somewhere. I'm sure, and again, just because he was live streaming and Flame Bird saving the day again. Everyone shows up and he is, he and Carr are saved by Steve Lombard.
Oh yeah. I appreciate Steve being such a bro. For Timmy, he's. You would think that I think when Steve Lombard got introduced in the show, I was like, oh, he's kind of a bit of the hothead or like the blowhard or whatever. But over time, like Steve Lombard has become like a very underrated character that really knows how to ingratiate himself to not only the characters in the show, but I think to viewers at home.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Now you mentioned the whole. Did you mention the whole? Lois having kind of powers inside the Black Mercy, which kind of helped them escape.
I did not mention that.
Well, that was great. Very kind of like fun anime kind of moment too. Just the fact that they finally like she kind of rants at him like, hey. Like Lois doesn't care about me. That's where she draws the line. Like, hey, I've gone through this Groundhog Day simulation like for the umpteenth time. I stole a whole dang spaceship to find you, and that's what like Lois of all the reckless. Like, oh my god, it is you.
Yeah,
it's a really sweet moment.
I really appreciate that through it all. Like Clark loves Lois, whether in spite of or because of how reckless she is.
Oh yeah. By the way, fun fact, I want to just get in there somewhere. Voice of Laura, did you recognize it?
I didn't reckon. No, not at the time of watching.
Ray Seahorn, the Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, again, not the best light of her. It's very it's very much it's kind of evil Laura, but
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. But it's a triumphant escape for them, and basically during the action, Brainiac shows up, invades as very legacy-esque kind of moment from Superman the Animated Series. Brainiac, he's invading again. Amanda Waller's learned nothing from like, hey, maybe someone can warn us about the Kryptonian threat.
Yeah,
didn't listen to any of that. Anyway, so he's attacking and conquering, and we have the Metallos, which they're putting a dent in things, but that's not going to last.
Oh, definitely not.
Anyway, so Superman, they break the Black Mercy link, and Superman is restored, and he got a new costume.
Yeah. What do you think of the new costume?
I mean, look, I like the red shorts personally. I like that more, but I mean, look, here's the thing. It makes sense because remember the red shorts were added by his mother, so he didn't have those initially when he got suited up. So it makes sense that in the moment he would not have it. I do think at the very end of the last episode he should have had them.
I do. The one thing I do, honestly,
I think in this episode, in like the battle, he shouldn't have them, but I think at the very end he should have had them on.
Yeah, I feel like if he had the shorts on, his costume would be complete. Because honestly, I really love the crest.
Yeah.
I think the blues are much more like blended in better than, not to say the blues in the original the first costume are badly blended, but this is a better. I think the two shades are different.
I mean, it looks great. It's just missing the red.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Superman's got a new costume. Things are kind of dire there. Brainiac's about to charge. Very kind of JLU looking, kind of like satellite laser, practically in the giant citadel of Kandor, of Krypton. He's basically hacked into the unbeatable Metallo army, which is not good. Amanda Waller again. Lex in the next episode has her number. Says, "Well, you asked for an unbeatable army. I gave it to you. Now he's hacked it." So I love I love the ending of this episode. I love how intimidating Emerson is as Brainiac when he says, "I am Krypton." You know, he's
Yeah.
about how great is that?
It's for a performance where they're playing like an alien robot. There is just a level of and like variation, intensity, scale. So I think oftentimes when actors are tasked to play like alien robots, they kind of have the stereotypical robot voice or just their normal voice with like echo. I think Emerson does a really good job of throwing his voice out there, having a hushed tone, and kind of having that range. I mean, it's similar-ish to like his Joker voice, but like there is a good amount of like control. Whereas I think for his Joker voice, he has, I think, whether intentionally or not, he's letting his voice kind of like drift off. Whereas when he's talking to his Brainiac, it's just his. I'm trying to have a better way of articulating it, but it's sort of like his voice doesn't just the way he talks and the way his voice like goes.
It kind of glitches out. It kind of like there's like they're
It's
futzing with it. You know.
situated. It doesn't just like drift apart. It's very firm and concrete in a way where like I think part of it is just like when he's playing the Joker, it's more loose and more like kind of not sing songy exactly, but that kind of rhythmic beat. Whereas for Brainiac, it's a much more like breathier, more like heavier kind of emphasis on each word and more firm. I think just kind of how like say like how Kang and like Roots Mighty's Heroes, he has a very specific like dominating presence, and I think that's kind of what Emerson did. Like he didn't play the sophisticated, intelligent guy. He played like a dominating presence, especially one that can have like a familial like side to him. Which doing all that, that's I think few actors could do. I think a lot of actors can do one aspect well, but not necessarily do both aspects equally well as I feel like Emerson has done.
Yeah. Anyway, so the whole like "Where are you, Superman?" Which kind of calls the whole like when in need, just call out his name kind of thing, which we bring up in the last episode, episode 10.
Mm-hmm.
My Adventures with Supergirl. Big climax battle here. Everyone helps out. Brainiac has Omega beams, which does make you wonder. Like, did he go through Apocalypse? Is Apocalypse decimated, or is this just like an homage to? Because again, we keep calling the red sun like the Omega lamps, like the Omega red lamps, or like the whole we keep this. That's what our nickname for the whole soul red sun kind of effect is. So I don't know if this is just like maybe a kind of a nod in that respect of like we haven't gotten to Apocalypse, we might not get to Apocalypse, because we don't have to, because technically Darkseid is not a Superman character. Assuming the animated series definitely spins him that way, but technically no correlation.
Well, the thing is that like for Darkseid, he just basically has like the heat, like he has his own version of heat vision or like laser eyes, like Omega. So like I think that's kind of where that like Omega beams or Omega heat radiation isn't solely the domain of like Darkseid.
Well, I'm just saying the way they actually work here, like they're going all over the place, crisscross zigzag. It's an homage to the Darkseid in terms of why I use it that way. But do you think it's actually, do you think like the implication is Brainiac has gone through Apocalypse and that's where he got that technology, or do you think it's just like kind of like a foreshadow of things to come?
I think it was neither. I think it's more like, hey, what would be visually cool and having a laser kind of going back and forth, It's just more visually interesting than just a laser going in one direction.
That's really specific, though. I mean, come on, with Superman the animated series. I mean, that's
I mean, like the Omega beams were. I mean, like lasers going in different directions, even like up and down. Like that's like a thing that's in animation. It's not specific to like.
Come on, man! This is gonna be the Lex thing all over again.
No, it's not the Lex.
It's gonna be the Lex thing all over. Come on, how was that an accident? Look at that.
No, it's not an accident. It wasn't an accident. It's more like it's probably not that deep. It's just more like, oh, let's just have a lasers traveling to and from because that's just cool looking.
All right.
It is. It is a cool looking thing.
Yes, it's cool looking. But come on, that is very audience. Help me out here. Come on, Dark. Is it? Do you think it's as a nod to Dark Side or not a nod to Dark
I
Side?
don't think it would be a nod to Dark Side. I think it'd be just more like
Even if it's like, again, it doesn't have to say Dark Side's like coming. It's like as a nod of like, if we're not going to do Dark Side, so we're just going to have an homage to Dark
if
Side.
a laser just like shoots out a green beam, that doesn't mean that like Green Lanterns evolved.
I know, but it's kryptonite though, so that's a bad example, Rohit.
No. Okay. Like a blue laser or like an orange laser. That doesn't mean it's about like the Blue Lantern Corps or Laura Fleas or whatever. Because sometimes,
well, that's true, but that's what I'm saying though. It's very specific. It's not just a straight line. It's like it's the iconic, curvy, all sorts of directions beam in a DC show. That is usually, if not always, signifies one character.
I guess here's the thing, I would give more credence if there was more evidence of how the technology, like sort of the environment around Brainiac or the technology, wasn't just solely Kryptonian. Like if there was like some Jack Kirby as designs on any part of his ship or whatever, I could give more credence to
Okay.
Yes, they're you gotta like, at least with Lex, it's like he's very purple, green. Like those are Lex colors. There was some evidence like either way. There's no like you gotta show me the evidence for like Apocalypse be. Are you saying that like Brainiac be defeated Darkseid Apocalypse? I don't know.
Well, I'm saying it's one of three things. Honestly, it's either that what you just said. It's either he went through Apocalypse. It's either that or it's just a foreshadow of like, okay, we have these kind of curly, these traditional Omega beams. Like maybe in the future we might see the actual Dark Side. Or three, it's just like we're never going to do Dark Side. We just want to show it, throw it in there as like a little Easter egg. Of like, hey, there's a Superman reference. Here's like kind of something reminiscent of Superman the Animated Series, the whole legacy thing we've been doing. So you're saying you don't think it's any of those three options?
I mean, if Gundam ahead, if I had to choose one of those three, it'd be the last option.
Okay, there you go.
But I don't. But like, I just think like lasers moving up and down like over different directions. That's not specific to Darkseid.
That is absolutely specific to Darkseid.
No, I'm gonna look up lasers moving in different directions in fiction.
Yes, in a DC show that is also featured Superman. Okay, anyways, this is not getting this anywhere. The point being, they have Steel, and then a lot of our season 1 baddies, they all come back. The ones that don't truly hate Superman, like Livewire, Heatwave, Silver Banshee, Mist, and Roughhouse, they all kind of come back. Sam and Amanda Waller, they kind of mend fences, at least for a truce there, and they team up effectively because Lex runs away and hides with Chris Parnell. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So we have Superman, Supergirl versus Brainiac, in which we have the big reveal here again, like another nod to Superman the Animated Series. Rohit. We reveal that Brainiac orchestrated and was behind the destruction of Krypton. In this case, more directly than Superman. The answer is he hit it so he could escape. But the point being, this one's more directly versus that. But I'm saying just the idea of Brainiac is the reveal is Brainiac's responsible for Krypton's destruction, which is a really cool idea.
Yeah. No, I that reveal was I think good because in a way it's like it makes sort of what Brainiac said about being I'm Krypton, feel less like he's just a zealot and more just like he's so like
deluded
in his own grandiosity that him destroying Krypton is him just affirming and substituting Krypton to him.
I love the irony in that this very cold, calculating, machine-like logic that is Brainiac is a very human motivation, and he won't admit that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that, again, he was going to be, outmoded. He was going to be, like decommissioned because the idea that he is literally the war engine of Krypton. You know, and again, he can't just stand the fact that maybe they would repurpose somebody, you know, because, you know, your father led peace talks, Kal-El. You know, like they were going to do a ceasefire because all the women and the children were dying. Against Emerson, just killing it, man, all the right ways. Just this great, you know, just this great thing where this whole thing of like, you know, they were going to decommission me and I couldn't have that. So he basically activated the most powerful, essentially Krypton's version of a nuke. He basically destroyed the planet. And, you know, Jor-El and Zor-El in their last moments sent their kids away, and Kara found himself to him, which pays off here, where he uses the Eradicator override on Kara, a little Death of Superman nod, and yeah, it's cousin versus cousin again. It's round 2. Well, I guess round 3 technically, because we had a little bit of like her fighting the scary anime Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, the fights between Superman and Kara are just so well done, well animated. You know, it just gets your blood pumping. You know,
I like the hug resolution. Do you think it's cheesy or do you like it?
For this show, like the hug fits.
Yeah.
If it was any other show, I would call BS on it.
Yeah, there you go.
But for Superman, My Image Superman, it's a show that has heart on its sleeve. And with the way that the writing was done this season, you know, the writers earned every moment that was sentimental, you know, heartwarming and all that stuff. So, you know, seeing Superman and Supergirl like be as not one literally, but you know, in a unified front, which is very heartwarming.
So, you know, we have like the love and support of friends versus like the flashback of Brainiac like browbeating Kara into submission, just like saying all like tearing her down like emotionally, is saying, you know, you are useless, you know, all these kind of things to like the young, you know, Kara. And anyway, so of course, you know, she snaps out of it. And they send Candors. By the way, my favorite like reveal for me at the end of the previous episode was Brainiac using the kryptonite shielding. I thought that was such a good idea. Like, oh my god, he could synthesize that. Yeah, he could code everything like the lead, and so you know the kryptonite wouldn't affect it.
Yeah, that whole.
I was like the more like, oh my god, how are they going to beat this guy? And the answer: we're going to throw him into the sun.
That should always be the solution for Superman. It's like, yeah. I'm tired.
It's the first time though. It's the first time he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is he really life? Maybe we'll see. You know, it's there's a, you know, you can do some damage to a robot. You know.
Well, I mean, you know, they have a CPU, so he's kind of alive. Well, we know traditionally Brain can reconstitute himself from anything. So either your whole Kolu idea or that CPU they have, he's coming back.
You know what you do with that CPU? You make a
coffee table, or like a lamp. You make like a Mr. Fusion lamp out of it.
No, you can make a device that like you take the CPU and you break it component parts, and then like Toyman, the prankster, and then some other Superman villain that uses tech. Bloodsport. You know, they utilize those parts to then start their Superman villain careers, and then Superman has to deal with them.
Sure. Anyway, Supergirl gets her costume in the fight. You know, has like the scarf cape and everything. Looks kind of neat. Anyway, so during all this, they send Kandor into the sun, and we have this like insane like Brainiac doing this kryptonite kamikaze move where he puts the kryptonite in himself, and it's like he's gonna blast them all, like like none of us will survive, and Kara takes the hit right into the sun. And thankfully, while we're doing a lot of All-Star Superman, and how can we not, we don't do the one part of All-Star Superman that would have made this scene really sad, where they all don't get they all don't get Kryptonian cancer, like solar, they all don't get super cancer.
That's gonna be the last season of the show.
There you go. They all get super cancer.
Yeah, we're just you just see Superman on on a comfortable chair going through chemotherapy.
I really do. I still, with All Star Superman, I do love the idea that we basically did Death of Superman again, but in like a non-violent way.
But I feel like the way the Superman goes out, like it has to feel much more painful, right? Because think of it this way: it's like you're just have too much radiation in your body, and you're like cancer sucks, right? And it's a longer lasting like illness, and you're just
Well,
kind
you
of
remember what was happening to him at the end of that, right?
it's
Like
been a
literally, he had like cracks
oh
forming in
yeah,
his body. He was beginning. He's a solar battery. He's his energy building in him. So he was like he's like the way Captain Atom blows up.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we're what? Okay, so point being, thankfully, Supergirl, she basically they realize like we're not dead. We're actually they're getting supercharged by the sun. So kryptonite doesn't hurt them right now. So yeah, they take out the Kara takes out Brainiac. Gets a little nasty scar that the cowards that be for animation consistency is like, no, we're gonna give her the scar for these 2 scenes, and then at the very end she'll be fine. She healed up. I guess it makes sense like over time, but still like kryptonite scar. You don't know. So she's at the so anyway, she took out the bad guy. I've never saved a world before. Really nice moment. Wakes up on the Kent farm, and she's welcomed by the Kents, and she plays catch with Clark. With no holding back.
The way both Clark and Kara like defeat Brainiac was just such a triumphant moment.
Mm-hmm.
And here the thing is crazy that like Kara didn't show up till like what midway through the season.
Yeah, episode 5.
Yeah, so it's like she hasn't been in the show for that long, and she has such great chemistry, with both Superman, Lois, Jimmy, and just she instantly connected, and I think that's just kind of crazy to think about that like this one girl who's just the cousin of one of your coworkers, you just see them flying up in the air, just like they're beating up like that girl's beating her robot dad, just saying that sentence out loud. I guess like if Jimmy were to do any Thanksgiving, he'll just have to think about what does he get for a gaslighting robot.
Yep. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a nice little wrap up here. Here's the thing. This ending. I want to get your thoughts on this. This ending, to me, feels like they didn't know they were coming back for more. This feels like if we're just going out, we're going out on this note. The whole like we have the cookout with the Kents. We have like Superman doing a wrap up. Everything seems like Lex is starting Lex Corp. It feels like we've kind of rounded everything out, assuming like just in case we don't come back.
I don't know. I think they knew that they were going to come back, and I feel like
I think they had a good idea they were going to come back. I don't think they knew, so I think this is them covering their bases.
I don't think it's that definitive ending because I feel like the fact that Lex Luthor is in the picture, and I feel like with Supergirl now being part of the cast, like that doesn't feel like a definitive. That's like, oh, this is the start of something new. I feel like if we were to get it like a season 3 and 4 and end it there, that could be. That's like it could be a definitive ending there, depending upon like what they structure the season as.
Something we neglected to mention, but we'll mention now, is that there was some tension where Lois was offered basically a number 2 position at the Gotham Gazette with Vicky Vale, and she the Clark was getting ready to support that, and she said she turned it down because she wants to kind of do it on her own. Basically, she doesn't want to be in like anyone's number 2. She wants to be a number 1 Lois Lane,
Yeah.
And they have soup on the roof, and then they fly off together, kind of like "Can you read my mind" style.
If you read Lois' mind, she's just like screaming at the top of her lungs as like.
But you know what she's screaming?
Yeah.
No, she's screaming, "I love Superman."
No, she's screaming, "Can you read my mind?"
Oh God!
What's in Jimmy's mind?
Yeah, there you go.
That's not even the right sound, Dragon.
I know it's not the right sound. I can't replicate the sound.
You can't do like a bird screech.
No, I can't. Like, I have to hear it first.
It's kind of a it's like a mix of a bird and like a police siren.
What's what I'm saying? I keep hearing like more like I'm hearing less bird. I hear like the little resonance. Anyway, okay, so we're getting all okay. Let's just John Ty. We answer this, then we're gonna again this. Okay, so John Ty says with the news of basically, what are your thoughts about season 3? The season 3 news that came from Comic-Con last week. With the news of Superboy will be in season 3. Do you think he's going to be a Lex creation? Okay, so a few things. Yes, we heard about Superboy. We heard about Cyborg Superman. We had Hank Henshaw. He was blown up. So, again, I think he's coming back and he's going to be reconstructed as potentially a combination of Cyborg Superman and Metallo. But the point being, he's coming back. Superboy, yeah, I think Lex wants a Superman on his own terms that he can control, and that'll be like his answer to Superman. He's gonna. I think it has to be a. I like to think it's a creation of Lex, because that's usually how it is, and I think that'd be appropriate. But that's just maybe that's just me. I think that's how they should do it, and that'd be like, how is Lex gonna one up Superman in kind of this arms race of Kryptonian technology, especially if we've seen that Kryptonian technology like took Lex down a peg. I think he's going to go the organic route, which would be a first. We haven't really gone the organic route with clones and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Although I will say this, if you look at the photos that were leaked of like how Superboy looks, he does look like he could be Clark and Lois's son.
Oh,
look at the photo. Look at his skin tone.
All right. Well, wait. Couldn't Lex just, instead of putting his own DNA in there, couldn't he use like Lois and?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I thought you were saying like he was coming from the future or something.
No. I it's like it could like somehow Lex finds out that like Lois and the super like are a thing, and they just take their DNA and make the. Because yeah, he's got like a.
I can imagine what Sam Lane's going to think about that. You did what with my daughter, you flake?
I do have to say, Superboy does look like, in terms of like looks and just attitude, he looks like a combo of Superman and Lois.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And also, if he is like Superman and Lois' son, imagine the Thanksgiving.
Oh boy.
Oh man, we're gonna get a Supergirl, another Supergirl that this looks like a combo of Kara and Jimmy. You heard it here, folks. No, that'd be Power Girl.
No. It's not the same. No.
Hey, we can mix and match.
No. I'm saying it's like she's not Karen Starr. It's different characters. Not in. It's not. Never mind. All right. So one other thing I want to mention. Do you think Amanda Waller? Okay. So after what happens at the end of the season, optimistically, I like to think she goes the JLU direction after this. I think she kind of goes the direction. Okay, there's a benefit to this. Possibly leads to a Suicide Squad, but let's just say, for argument's sake, it's just the point being like she's like, okay, Superman's not bad. Maybe I should have these guys on my side for when something like this happens, versus having a deterrent, like a literal deterrent, like an army, like a robotic army was a bad decision. So perhaps should go a different path with it. So I think, I'm not saying she's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but I think maybe a little less Telltale, a little more JLU.
I could see that. I could see that also, like, if not just Amanda Waller on her own, but also just if the world's becoming more and more aware of alien, figures and threats, I think there's gonna be an incentive on the part of like other nations to make their own superhero like specific to their country. And considering Superman is kind of like he's a hero for the world, but he is an American. You know, it'd be interesting for him to interact. Like imagine Superman interacting with Superman in China or any of the heroes that are inspired by him throughout the world. And that'd be kind of an interesting because you know we've gotten so much of like how do people see Superman through like the people in Metropolis. It'd be kind of interesting to see Superman in a more global setting. Especially if like Kryptonian technology just gets proliferated throughout the world, and then that just like kind of changes the whole like dynamic of geopolitics.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've gone as okay, let's see. Well, we already kind of talked about the costumes, John. I mean, we like them.
I like Supergirl. Out of the two, I like Supergirl's costume the best.
He needs the shorts at the end. He should have had the shorts.
Yeah, I think the shorts. How do you feel about the yellow highlights on top of the boots?
I mean, I don't think there's anything. Look, I wouldn't mind if we had more red on the costume.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I like the yellow outline on the like on the S and everything. So I think that looks the highlights of yellow are pretty good. Just need the shorts.
Put on your shorts. Put on your shorts. James, I'll tell James Gunn to tell Josie Campbell to make that a permanent design.
There you go. Anywho, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have the suit. Feels that's what I'm saying. I like the suit feel. Yeah, by the way, it's kind of neat that you can kind of see like the suit automatically puts on like a helmet if you ask for it too. That's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anywho, so we've gone on for a long time on this. I want to thank you folks for sticking it out with us. I want to thank John Ty in the comments. I want to thank Code Geass Anime Fan. We want to thank Little Blue came in. Warp Monarch. We want to thank Warp Monarch. Sonia Pantoja, just shouting out some Disney stuff. You're basically saying you've seen The Mandalorian lately. And that's of course Jacob for keeping things running for us here. And of course, thanks for showing up, Rohith.
I remembered. I put it on my calendar, on my regular calendar and Google Calendar. So it was worth the wait. We got through. We went to talk about Superman for almost 3.5 hours, and
only an hour of it was dedicated to Silver St. Cloud. Yeah. So.
Sir, I will not take this back talk, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, no, you'll take it lying down though. So,
whoa! And guys, you don't hear this, man? What the hell? Okay, yeah, she looked great, but damn, man, y'all don't make me out to be this like slut. Jesus Christ.
Anyway.
God.
But we know Rohith's playbook. He gives the girls ice cream, and it's all this charm for days.
You're like a floozy. Jeez.
Floozy with a law degree. So thanks for showing up, folks. We'll be talking about Batman Cape Crusader soon. Look forward to that. Probably clock in. fingers crossed, clock in a little under 3 hours. But yeah. Be seeing ya. Remember, look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's another season of My Adventures with Superman.